The speed at which items are listed and sold is astonishingly fast. 1,000 green after the weapon was listed, its availability decreased at a visible rate. While I was still listing my items, it showed, "Your Black Iron Knight sword is sold out." What's going on? Did I add the wrong price? Fang Hao took another look at the exchange directory. The Black Iron Knight sword has been sold, granting cast iron block +5. The Black Iron Knight sword has been sold, granting cast iron block +5. The fine single-edged sword has been sold, gaining +15 iron dot. The hardwood cavalry bow has been sold, granting +10 cast iron blocked. After a general check, the amount sold was found to be correct. Both the Black Iron Knight sword and the fine single-edged sword were equipment used by Fang Hao in the early stages of his career. Within the regional channel, most Lord soldiers are equipped with this type of equipment. Unexpectedly, the other regions were developing at a similar pace to our own. This green equipment is still selling very well. The cost of the Black Iron Knight sword is 3 cast iron blocks, 1 tough wood, and 1 leather. Fang Hao sells cast iron block 5 for a price that is quite reasonable, considering the cost of making it himself and excluding the cost of tough wood and leather. After all, you can't expect sellers to make no money at all. The same equipment sold by others, unless it's a discarded green one-handed sword, will never be cheaper than Fang Hao's, even if it's brand new. Moreover, this is being sold in large quantities. Once he was certain he was making a profit, Fang Hao continued to list weapons on a large scale. Equipment. The initial number of items listed went from 1,000 to 5,000, and then directly to 10,000. Those items that weren't selling well before, and some even remained unsold. It became a hot seller again. The goods in the warehouse began to disappear rapidly, reappearing as pieces of material. Fang Hao immediately ordered a large number of skeletons to be brought in. We began organizing the warehouse. Various scattered goods were sorted, categorized, and then stored back in the warehouse. Fang Hao's face was full of smiles. World Channel isn't as bad as I initially thought. The transmigrators in various places are still very enthusiastic. They are all his lovely customers. At the same time, on a carriage heading to the eastern city of the 100 Cities Federation, St. Su-Haid stared blankly at the data on the leaderboard. Fang Hao's troop strength was estimated at 30 million. How is that possible? At this moment, he began to doubt his own judgment once again. If the statistics are accurate, where exactly are his troops? Given the time it took for the transmigrators to arrive here, how could they possibly support such a large force? Only the dead who neither eat nor drink. Only then could such a large number of troops survive. He began to recall his experiences in Prol, where the orcs constantly targeted him, and the location of Fang Hao City could not be located. A feeling of being led by the nose rose in my heart. Bang! He punched the car wall next to him. "My lord, is there anything I can help you with?" Outside the carriage, Temple Knight approached and asked in a low voice. The curtain was pulled open, and Su-Haid looked out at the army moving quickly. The Hall of Justice and the church have already focused their attention on the Otis Great Necropolis. At the same time, because he had discovered Necropolis's preparations in advance, the church's higher-ups paid even more attention to him. Resources support has also increased 2 to 3 times compared to the past. Now, he can't even reveal his guesses. He now says to continue investigating the area north of Prol, but there have been no leads. The church leadership will definitely deal with him. This is not child's play. Every decision the church makes requires human and financial resources. That wouldn't allow him to keep testing the waters. Seeing Temple Knight's questioning gaze, Su-Haid could only force a smile. "It's nothing. It's just a bit stuffy in the carriage. I'm getting some fresh air." "Yes, Your Excellency. Please remember to draw the curtains to prevent the enemy from spying from afar." "Clear." Temple Knight nodded and summoned several attendants. They followed on either side of the carriage, protecting Su-Haid's safety. Silverwing City, Mage Association. Li Rong stood out among a group of 11 or 12-year-old children. As an apprentice, she was clearly too old, but Transmigrators' uniqueness led her down this path, and she has become a mage apprentice. 1. A fire mage apprentice. The reason for choosing the fire element, rather than the water and wood elements which are more common among women, is that fire was chosen. The biggest reason is that it's convenient to light a cigarette. Finding fire here isn't something you can do anytime. A notification suddenly came from her ear that the World Channel had been opened, which made Li Rong pause slightly. While the mage on stage wasn't paying attention, He picked up the city lord's book and started reading. When you see everyone's chat and the numbers on the leaderboard, Li Rong's eyes widened instantly, her face filled with surprise. She underestimated Fang Hao. They underestimated her capabilities, financial resources, and military strength. 30 million? That's insane. But soon, her surprise was replaced by joy. She has a good eye. She approached Fang Hao herself and eventually became subordinate city. She made the right choice to come here. This was the most correct step she took since transmigrating. Now let's see how she wins over this man. Judging from the rabbit maids in his territory, they should be fond of women. So why don't they fall for me? I still need to think of a solution myself. Thinking to myself, the monk giving the lecture in front of them, however, had his eyes on her. Li Rong, what are you laughing at? The sudden roll call made Li Rong tremble. He immediately closed the city lord's book, straightened his back, and said, Teacher Jijilia, I wasn't laughing at anything. All right, come up here and help me demonstrate how to cast a spell. Huh. Li Rong's face fell, but she still went out and put on the armor. Soon, the lecture ended. Li Rong took off the armor and wanted to leave so she could go back and congratulate Fang Hao. I had just finished packing my things. Jijilia called out to her. Li Rong, could you stay for a moment? No way. I didn't mean to laugh. Li Rong was secretly groaning. She was over 30 years old, and being scolded by the teacher among a group of children was so embarrassing. Teacher Jijilia, sharing lessons does not constitute a master-disciple relationship, but the word teacher can still help to bring people closer. Jijilia smiled. You've been here for 2 months now. How's your studies going? Li Rong immediately replied. I can skillfully use fireball, fire arrow, and summon flame spider. Oh, you've improved so quickly. Jijilia was somewhat surprised. I never expected Li Rong to improve so quickly. It seems that transmigrators really do have many differences. Li Rong smiled but did not answer. Jijilia didn't dwell on the matter, but went straight to the point. Hall of Justice. Have the Mage Association send people to assist the eastern border, and I plan to have you go with them. Li Rong's heart stirred. To the east lies the border with the Otis Great Necropolis. It was she who had Chao Jingji reveal this information to Su Haid. Now it's her again. Teacher Jijilia, but I'm still an apprentice. I can't help you at all if I go. Jijilia shook her head and said, I am well aware that you transmigrators possess many abilities. The association will not let you go for nothing. It will give you sufficient rewards. Moreover, there has been no real war at the border. Both sides are in a standoff and negotiation phase. The reason Li Rong was included in the group was due to the influence of the church. During this period, Saint Su Haid of the church became an important figure among the younger generation in Silverwing City. Moreover, transmigrators' many capabilities have also gained attention from senior management. The only transmigrators in the Mage Association are the newly joined Li Rong. Jijilia then wanted to train her to become the association's Su Haid. Even if he's not as good as Su Haid, he's not far off. Li Rong frowned. She didn't really care about rewards or anything like that. With Fang Hao as a powerful figure, you're already lining up to take advantage of others. So who cares about your paltry sums? Moreover, it's dangerous even when there's no war. If something happens, you won't be able to run back even if you want to. But Li Rong also knew that she couldn't directly refuse the association's president. She hesitated for a moment before saying, Teacher Jijilia, I need to go back and discuss this with my husband. After all, this is not a small matter. All right, the association's mage corps will depart with the army in 3 days. You and your husband should talk to them about it, Jijilia said with a smile. Li Rong nodded and turned to leave. In the main city, after a busy morning, Fang Hao finally set up the World Channel store. I wonder if people in different districts are still living like humans. Why are obsolete mining tools like iron logging axes and iron or pickaxes selling so well? The data collection tools he uses are already becoming widespread on Blue. There are also various green weapons armor, a magic scroll inscribed in their own name. It's selling incredibly well in the market. He even began to consider whether he should change his development plan. What's the point of fighting? All that fighting and killing is just a hassle. Wouldn't it be better to just sell things here, accumulate a large amount of capital, and then gradually use that capital to acquire the surrounding land? On second thought, he rejected the plan. In this world, being able to make money doesn't mean it's yours. If you have money, even if you don't attack others, they will attack you. In the end, the result will be the same. It's just a matter of who strikes first. Fang Hao returned to Lord's Hall. In the backyard, Maids was still studying how to plant flowers and plants, while the few deer that had been left unattended all winter joined in with their tools. He occasionally offered his own opinions and views. Fang Hao glanced at it, and then ignored the chattering maids. My butt had just settled into my seat. The system notification appeared only in Fang Hao's ears. Congratulations, Lord. You're number 1 on the territory leaderboard. Rewards. All factions gain plus 200 influence. Your own faction gains plus 300 influence. And special orange buildings 1 blueprint. Congratulations, Lord. You're number 1 on the wealth rankings. Rewards. All factions influence plus 100. Your own faction's influence plus 150. Orange creates 1 blueprint. Congratulations, Lord. You're number 1 on the troop strength ranking. Rewards. All factions influence plus 100. Your own faction's influence plus 150. And 1 orange item dot. Looking at the prompts that appear one by one, Fang Hao is suddenly overjoyed. I was just cursing myself for being too flashy, for not knowing how to hide my strength. Now, however, they are overjoyed. Luckily, I wasn't foolish enough to hide my strength. Otherwise, all these rewards would have gone to someone else. Similarly, the system didn't trick him this time either. The notification of the reward was not announced to everyone like the first time. Only he could hear it. In this way, at least the others won't know that he received a reward. I also need to pay attention to the other contestants who are among the top few. I received a reward. At least the top 3 should have received one. First, look at the first blueprint. Holy Spirit City, level 15 castle. Category, Wonder City. Effect. All building durability plus 100%. Food production plus 150%. Production and mining plus 100%. Recruitment and conversion speed of all troop types plus 50%. Public order plus 50%. Reproduction plus 30%. Public faith plus 30%. Prerequisites. Lord's Manor level 15 or higher. City Wall level 15. And 5 buildings within the city at level 15. Description. The palace where the gods are said to reside will possess many special effects. Holy crap. Seeing the result before him, Fang Hao was completely dumbfounded. If grain production increases by 150%, wouldn't we no longer need to buy grain from outside next year and be able to produce it ourselves? At the same time, production and mining increased by 100%, and troop type conversion, security, and reproduction all received corresponding bonuses. Even faith increased by 30%. Fang Hao glanced at faith alone. Faith. The people of your territory spontaneously believe in and revere you. The higher your status, the more they admire and love you. According to Fang Hao's understanding. In other words, this 30% provides a 30% foundation for those who do not believe in you, while those who do believe in you become even more devoted. 30% became the safety net for faith. This is exactly the attribute he needs right now. His divine status has not been elevated to this day, and the temples in various cities proclaim the Lord's benevolence and grace. But the scars of war cannot be erased with simple words. Apart from the 2 human cities, all the other cities were conquered. So many people died, and you can't make people believe in you with just a few words. And this 30% is a very good start. As long as the hatred in one's heart lessens, faith will gradually increase. Unfortunately, buildings can only be used when the city reaches level 15. Currently, Lord's Manor is still at level 12, and some unimportant buildings in the city are still at level 7 or 8, which he has not bothered to upgrade. It seems that upgrading buildings remains a key development direction this year. Everything else can stop, but data collection and development must never stop. Fang Hao was overjoyed at receiving his first blueprint reward. After adding the blueprint, continue to view the second image. Miniature Hair Airship Blueprint. Energy Core 1. Hair Airship Component 1. Hair Airship Hull 1. Hair Airship Deck 1. Hair Airship Superstructure 1. Hair Airship Sail 1. Original Hair Airship Components. 5 cast iron blocks. 8 bronze ingots. 18 mithril. 12 metal parts. 18 precision parts. 5 white steel plates. 22 glue. 8 tough leather. 12 mana essence. 8 perfect essence. Hair Airship Hull. Tough wood 350. Iron wood 220. Leather 200. Tough leather 180. Cast iron block 150. Fine iron ingot 85. Metal parts 320. Precision parts 250. Flight traces 5. Mana essence 3. Hair Airship Deck. Tough wood 220. Iron wood 180. Tough leather 150. White steel plate 200. Tough leather 150. Metal parts 280. Precision parts 200. Flight traces 3. Mana essence 1. Wild Rabbit Airship Ship. tough wood 320, ironwood 200, leather 180, tough leather 150, white steel plate 150, metal parts 200, precision parts 120, flight traces 2, mana essence 1. Wild rabbit airship sails, tough leather 120, eagle soft leather 50, linen canvas 150, thread 120, precision parts 50, traces of wind 5, mana essence 3. Description: the early goblin technology of the airship was a vehicle for transporting goods between territories. Over time, the airship has been phased out by the teleportation array and sealed away by the blueprint. Only a small number of obsolete airships are kept in goblin parks and museums for exhibition. I saw this reward. Fang Hao frowned at first, then realized what it was. The reward for being the first to claim a territory is the main city buildings. The top reward for wealth is a transport airship discarded by goblins. However, since the Merchant Alliance built the teleportation light screen, this type of transport airship has been phased out and is no longer sold to outsiders. Although it's considered obsolete, the products of goblin technology still produce surprisingly good results. If this airship is the same as the airship you understand, it's a vehicle that flies in the sky. He really got a great deal. He would never use this thing to transport goods. During the war, wouldn't it have been more effective to fill it with cannons? Moreover, aerial units are safer in certain situations. You can output with confidence. For a moment, Fang Hao felt an overwhelming surge of joy. First is great. First. Thank you, system. Long live the system. Fang Hao thanked the system several times in his heart. Then they carefully examined the airship's construction requirements again. The material still contains the term energy core. We need to find a way to acquire buildings capable of producing energy cores as quickly as possible. Blueprints are essential. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to mass-produce the several blueprints I have on hand. This airship cannot be mass-produced. In addition to the energy core, a large number of rare materials were also found in various parts of the airship. Among them, the traces of flight, mana essence, are consumed the most. Secondly, there are traces of wind, perfect essence, and a special leather material called eagle leather. It should be a material synthesized in 2 stages. Now that a global market has emerged, these materials should not be difficult to obtain. After all, there's a huge number of transmigrators, so someone must have acquired some, or at least have a way to do so. After watching the second reward, Fang Hao's face was full of smiles, especially the name of the airship, Wild Rabbit. He likes rabbits, especially the clingy kind. Add blueprint to your library, and continue to view the third option. Organ jar, orange. Category, magic container. Ability, magical enhancement. Mana enhancement. Reduces spell cost by 50% and restores 25% upon hitting a target. Description, magical power allows immortal mages to add a portion of their energy to their spells, reducing the cost of magic. For it, Fang Hao's smile gradually faded as he looked at the third reward. This is an organ jar for the Undead Mage class. If it hits an enemy, it reduces mana consumption by 75%. Currently, the Mage's Mage Tower has not yet been blessed by the organ jar, which is exactly what he needs. Moreover, a 75% boost is also quite good. With the Mage's own healing abilities, it's almost like casting spells without cost. However, compared to the previous 2 rewards, it seems a little less impressive. Moreover, Fang Hao was employing a strategy of overwhelming numbers, and once the 2 sides clashed, the situation would become chaotic. Mages and gunners are no longer very useful. There are no teammates to protect you here. When you use a skill, the effect is the same whether it hits an enemy or a teammate. The 75% recovery is useful in battle, but Fang Hao always feels it's a waste of an orange reward item. Even if the organ jar in Mage Tower is empty, it doesn't matter. I still think to myself, why didn't they give me an orange? Troop-type buildings blueprint. Why? Even if there was some resentment in their hearts, there was no way to change it. You can't ask for too much from a free reward. After the blueprint is put away, carefully place the organ jar on the ground as well. Fang Hao opened the Lord's Book. In the World Channel Trading Zone, begin acquiring traces of wind, mana essence, perfect essence, and energy core. As for Junying soft leather, it is sold in its own green. The leather armor section now includes a condition for exchanging 10 units of falcon leather. It is unclear what grade of material this is. Let's order 10 tickets first to test the market. If it doesn't work, we'll lower the price. Complete the setup using Lord's Book. Fang Hao picked up the organ jar again and walked out of Lord's Manor. Upon entering the organ museum, a chilling atmosphere descends upon you. This feeling is even more unpleasant than the weather outside. A funeral priest who was pounding medicine immediately came over and said, "My lord." Fang Hao handed him the organ jar and said, "Put this in the mage tower, on the buildings." "Yes, sir." Funeral priest took it and turned to walk inside. Fang Hao glanced at the second floor. The room on the second floor was open, but Nielsen was nowhere to be seen. Over the past 2 months, Nielsen has completed the creation of 5 hero corpses. 2 of them are orange heroes of the dwarves, and the other 3 are blue and green heroes. These 5 heroes have been assigned by Fang Hao to Boffing Mountain, Bloody Mountains, and Coldwind Mountains. They are responsible for guarding and deterring the surrounding cities to prevent any problems from arising. When Funeral Priest placed the organ jar in his hand into the groove of the mage tower, an orange halo radiated from the organ museum. Imbue the ability into all undead mages within the territory. Fang Hao viewed the properties of the organ museum. Organ museum. Category: Special buildings. Includes the following organ jars: Revival, Lightning Hand Speed, Slaughter Mastery, Thunder Power, Magic Blessing. Available to recruit: Funeral Priest. Funeral Priest. Wriggling Spine 1, Traces of Death 1. Note: placing an organ jar containing various types of energy within it grants the troops powerful abilities and allows them to create special weapons. The entire organ museum now has 5 organ jars. Thunder Power is dark gold, while Mana Blessing and Slaughter Mastery are orange. Lightning Hand Speed is purple, while the original Revival was of slightly lower quality, being blue. However, Revival's effects are well suited for the undead. You can recover from your injuries through combat. If it could achieve Orange's Revival effect, the results would likely be even better. After waving goodbye to Funeral Priest, Fang Hao left the organ museum. It's too gloomy here. Unless there's something important, he really doesn't want to stay here. Exit the organ museum. Then I saw 2 fawns, each carrying a small leather bag, hopping forward as they planted something by the roadside. "Edith, what are you planting?" Fang Hao called out. Upon hearing Fang Hao shout, Edith and the other fawn froze. He turned and tried to run away. Perhaps feeling that running away was not a good idea, he ran out himself and then walked over with his head down and small steps. "Master," Edith whispered, just like a child who has made a mistake. Fang Hao touched his face. Was he really that scary? "What should we plant?" "Moonflower," Sister Air said to plant some. Edith explained immediately. "Moonflower? I think I've heard of it before. Why plant grass? Do you even need to plant that stuff?" Edith immediately explained. "Master, although the moonflower is called a grass, it is actually a type of flower. It just blooms at night, and when the flower opens, it emits a beautiful fluorescent light. In places where there are no streetlights, you can plant this to provide some dim lighting." Okay, Fang Hao understands. Nightstone is still limited in its coverage area. The streetlights only cover the residential area and the industrial area of the undead. The rest of the area was still dark. If you have this kind of moonflower, even if the light is very faint, it can still provide some illumination. We could plant some along the road. Okay, you guys go ahead and plant them. Fang Hao nodded and said, "Yes, master." Edith waved to another fawn hiding behind the buildings in the distance. "I went back to the roadside to plant these moonflowers." Returned to Lord's Manor. Fang Hao stood in front of the door, looking up at the tall buildings. Level 12 Lordstone Fortress. Level 12, only 3 levels away, Fang Hao said in a low voice. Of the 3 rewards, only the organ jar is directly usable. The other 2 items are props that look impressive, but cannot be used for the time being. It seems we need to increase our data collection efforts. Otherwise, it would be too frustrating if blueprints could only be viewed but not used. With that in mind, Fang Hao summoned Dimitrika and released the teleportation light screen to head towards the Bloody Mountains. Continue recruiting more miners. Build more large quarries to increase mining output. Afternoon, the light screen lit up in the main city square. Fang Hao and Dimitrika emerged from the light screen. After lunch, Lord's book, and then received a private message from Li Rong. "Not bad. Number 1 in the world. He's definitely the man I've set my sights on." Fang Hao replied. "Big sister, isn't it a bit incongruous for someone your age to be acting like a teenager? You're the eldest sister. Your whole family are the eldest sisters. Have no choice / Li Rong continued. "The Mage Association allowed me to follow Silverwing City." The army headed east to confront Otis's undead army. Inside the hall, Fang Hao paused slightly as he was about to drink his tea. His brows furrowed. He knew that Li Rong had become an apprentice of the Mage Association, and he had also given Li Rong the magic book Mysteries of the Multi-Headed Fire Python, Volume 1. But no matter what, Li Rong is still an apprentice. It's too early for him to join the war. You're sending him? You're just a lowly apprentice. Are you going to throw your life away? Fang Hao replied, yes, but the president spoke to me personally today. I didn't refuse directly, but just said I would go home and discuss it with my husband. They didn't pay attention to the implications in the words. Fang Hao thought about it seriously and realized that there were actually benefits to Li Rong going. It now appears that the Mage Association is starting to pay more attention to transmigrators, and Li Rong is the first transmigrator they are looking to train. This also means that Li Rong has the opportunity to occupy a certain high position. Just like Su Hei's sainthood, it wouldn't be bad to have a female mage or something. At the same time, once passed, it can also monitor the situation on the eastern border. The information is communicated to myself in real time. When war breaks out, both sides can cooperate as needed, which will be beneficial to themselves. The only thing to be careful about is safety. Seeing that Fang Hao hadn't spoken, Li Rong sent a message. What's wrong? Are you asleep? Fang Hao replied, I just thought about it, and if it's safe to do so, going to the east would be of great help to us. At least we could get information about what's happening there. Crying loudly, are you trying to kill your wife for insurance money? Don't lie to me. Ensuring safety is not a problem, and the weather isn't as bad as winter. You can consider it, Fang Hao said. That was his idea, but Li Rong was really resistant and didn't plan to go. He won't force you. There was a moment of silence on the other end. Then a few minutes later, Li Rong sent another message. Make sure I'm safe, then I can come over. No problem. I'll arrange a hero to protect you. If you're in real danger, I'll use teleportation to bring you back. All right, I agree. I'll be back in the city in half an hour. You can pick me up and talk to the factory and shops. Okay, no problem. Half an hour later, Li Rong stepped out from the light screen. Unlike her previous leather armor, Li Rong now wears a fitted mage robe. Flame patterns are embroidered on the cuffs and hem, representing the identity of a fire mage. She really does look like a cool and aloof female mage. Li Rong looked around and saw Fang Hao, as well as a woman with purple skin. He frowned. He immediately ignored Fang Hao and began to carefully observe the woman. She has a small face and delicate features, long black hair and pointed ears. He was wearing leather armor and had a strangely shaped dagger hanging at his waist. So beautiful. No wonder Fang Hao wouldn't take the bait no matter how much I tried to seduce him. The women around me are all of such high quality, especially those with purple skin. Could it be that they were specially painted with some kind of pigment? Please sit down. Fang Hao gestured. Li Rong didn't say much and quietly sat down to the side. Fang Hao continued. This is Li Rong, the city lord of the territory's subordinate city. She is in charge of Xianming Tower. Then he said to Li Rong, this is Morse, the hero of the territory. The two nodded to each other, thus acquainting. Fang Hao continued. Morse, this time you will accompany Li Rong to the border town of the Federation. You have no other task but to protect Li Rong's safety. If there is any danger, you can take her with you to escape. These are the bodyguards Fang Hao arranged for Li Rong. This was also the first task assigned to Morse. Since arriving in the territory, Morse hasn't carried out any missions yet. This is the first time. Upon hearing Fang Hao's words, Li Rong was instantly overjoyed. She can see hero ranks and names. Purple heroes. Those have never appeared in the regional channel. Leaving aside the question of assassinating anyone, protecting oneself should be sufficient. Moreover, she wasn't an important person, and her enemies wouldn't specifically come to assassinate her. She used to be a spy, so if she's careful, she shouldn't be in any danger. He looked at Morse with delight, his eyes full of anticipation. Morse nodded expressionlessly. Okay, wow, so aloof. Okay, then you can go with Li Rong now and get to know each other. Fang Hao said, then stood up. Li Rong, let's go check out a few shops. Okay, Li Rong nodded. Fang Hao released the teleportation spell again, and the three of them entered the teleportation space together. Give the shops in the city a fresh overview. Night. After seeing Li Rong off, Fang Hao went to the backyard to soak in the hot spring. There aren't many nighttime entertainment options here. Aside from soaking in hot springs, all I do is sleep. While enjoying Xiaobai's massage, Fang Hao opened Lord's book to peek at the screen. The regional channel mainly features recruitment ads from various leagues, as well as dating ads from men and women. After all, a region is still within a certain range. Maybe your online crush will come over, but it's different in the World Channel. No matter how well you chat, you can't see or touch them. I glanced at the regional channel. I immediately scrolled back to the world channel. The speed at which the screen refreshes is still incredibly fast. Slow down and see what everyone is talking about. For sale, giant crocodile scale armor, blue, high-level blue armor. Only 3 pieces available. Best bidder wins. Buying 2,000 units of terracotta tile. Does anyone have terracotta tile? Buying terracotta tile. For sale, large fishing boat, blue, as well as various kinds of fish and seafood. Large quantities are available. If you are interested, you can discuss the price via private message. Fang Hao paused slightly as he turned his hand down. I clicked on this person's detailed information. Kosakairin, Japanese. The form of this name is quite easy to recognize. Fang Hao thought about it for a moment and then closed the chat. He plans to open more hot pot restaurants in various surrounding cities, at which point the seafood supply will be difficult to meet by Fule alone. Therefore, he wants to choose a supplier. But when I saw the name, I thought better of it. There's no rush to open a shop. Chats still appear quickly. Information about various sales and acquisitions keeps appearing. Finally, Fang Hao found the information he needed. For sale, Junying soft leather, the same leather material that Fang Hao, the world's #1 leather supplier, is seeking to purchase. A green. Exchange 2 equipment cards for 2 leather cards. 10 cards remain. Buy them quickly if you want. 2 leather shirts. Exchange for a green shirt. Equipment. Goodness, they really dare to ask. Moreover, they even used themselves as a promotional slogan, suggesting that their acquisition of this type of leather in the channel made them believe it was a special material. Fang Hao opened the private message and found Zhang Bin. He said, Zhang Bin, talk to this kid and see if you can find out how this kind of leather is made. Zhang Bin quickly replied, Okay, boss. Fang Hao flipped through the pages for a while longer. Zhang Bin's message came over. Boss, besides the person you mentioned, I asked about another one. The 2 people obtained their hides from slaughtering 5th-tier fire feather eagles and 6th-tier thousand-leaf eagles, respectively. After secondary processing, they obtained swift eagle soft hide. I feel that it should be the hides of high-level eagles and eagles. After secondary processing, you can get swift eagle soft hide. After Zhang Bin finished speaking, he also handed over 5 Junying soft leather cards. It seems that it was purchased while gathering intelligence. If you don't buy it, they might not tell you all this. Okay, I understand. Fang Hao replied after receiving 5 banknotes in the transaction. It turns out that the material was obtained through secondary processing after the slaughter of eagles and hawks. Fang Hao has a clear goal in this regard. I ended a chat with Zhang Bin. Fang Hao acquired 2 more blueprints through the channel. Advanced Spirit Field, blue. Hard-roofed well, green. Blueprints can increase farmland yields, while hard-topped wells can prevent well water pollution and ensure the well water is clear and clean. On our side, although there is a rejuvenation spring, the well is still in use. Now that we have hard-roofed wells, we can replace the simple white wells. He then shared the 2 blueprints with the city lords under his command. After browsing the world channel again and finding nothing that she needed, she took Air and Xiaobai back to their room to rest. Why? I've been working diligently all winter. Why haven't these 2 changed at all? The next day, Fang Hao woke up from his sleep. She gently touched the soft spot beside her, stretched, and got out of bed. The foot had just touched the ground. A crisp sound came from the Lord's book. Someone is spying on me. How can they be so accurate? I opened the Lord's book and took a look. It's Chao Junming, the one in the dwarf city who carries the revolver. Blueprint. The person who developed the revolver. According to Dong Jiayue and other transmigrators, his reputation is not high. But this person does seem to have some talent. At least the bolt-action rifle was something he helped the dwarves improve. Has revolver been successfully developed? Thinking about it, winter is over, it's about time. Opening the private message window left Fang Hao somewhat disappointed. Master Fang Hao, Lord Belerga hopes you can come over when you have time. There is something important to discuss with you. Belerga looking for herself? Having a Transmigrator's app does make things more convenient. Even communicating via conch shell is not as convenient as this. Okay, tell him to wait a moment. I'll be right there. Good. After hanging up the private message between the 2 of them, a soft body hugged her from behind. Master, why are you up so early? Don't you know you're tired? Air said gently. Fang Hao patted her head. You guys can sleep a little longer. You don't need to get up so early. Air didn't say much, but knelt up and helped him start getting dressed. I've had breakfast. After summoning Dimitrika, Fang Hao released the teleportation light screen and headed to Grey Iron City. It appears in a hall with a modern style, yet it is exceptionally gorgeous. it was discovered that Belurga and a group of dwarven ministers were gathered in the hall. It doesn't look like a meeting. They probably knew Fang Hao would appear here, so they waited here. My lord, Belurga bowed. My lord. The group of dwarves bowed in unison. Fang Hao waved his hand, signaling everyone to stand up, and then sat down to the side. There weren't many dwarves present. However, there were also more than 20 people, who were probably all close associates promoted by Belurga. After everyone was seated, a servant brought over roasted tea that suited the dwarves' tastes. After everyone was seated, Fang Hao asked, Belurga, is there anything important? Belurga spoke softly. My lord, the Human Federation sent a message yesterday mentioning the situation at Otis Great Necropolis, hoping that the dwarves can provide reinforcements, and also planning to purchase a certain amount of equipment. Fang Hao's brows furrowed instantly. Are the undead and humans on the verge of war? They've all started asking the dwarves for help. What did the Federation tell you? Belurga organized his thoughts and said, the dwarves and the Human Federation maintain contact through the communicating conch shell. They mentioned that the situation with the Otis Great Necropolis is deteriorating, and several negotiations have failed. Therefore, they have instructed the dwarves to prepare in advance to jointly resist the undead, and have also deployed 5,000 cannons and tens of thousands of crossbows. Fang Hao fell into deep thought. Several negotiations have failed, and it seems we are really on the verge of war. Belurga, according to dwarven tradition, how would you handle a message from a human? Belurga said, my lord, there is an agreement between humans and dwarves that they will support each other in the face of vampires and the undead. But peace has lasted for decades. It remains to be seen whether this agreement will continue. What about the equipment you purchased? In recent years, the dwarves have stopped selling new equipment. The humans are now buying it, possibly to deal with the undead, or perhaps as an excuse to upgrade their firearms. Belurga analyzed. Belurga, now that you're in charge of Boffing Mountain, what are your thoughts? Fang Hao continued to ask. Judging from Belurga's fluent answers, he and his men must have already discussed it beforehand. Fang Hao also wanted to hear his thoughts. Belurga didn't hide anything and said directly, Sir, I think we can sell the equipment to them, which would be a considerable income. However, in terms of supporting troops, Grey Iron City has just finished a major battle and doesn't have enough manpower to help humanity at this time. Fang Hao agreed with this in his heart. Grey Iron City has just experienced a major battle with the undead, so it has an excuse to refuse to send troops. Equipment and supplies can be sold to them. This would increase the combat strength of the human side, thereby depleting Necropolis's forces. Didn't they buy a rifle? No, the Human Federation isn't very familiar with the fire gun, and rifle might not have received the news yet. Okay, then let's proceed according to your plan. Yes, my lord. Belurga nodded, then looked again at the group of dwarven ministers below. You have all heard what my lord said. Go and prepare. Yes. The group of dwarves all withdrew. Next, Belurga reported to Fang Hao about the recent situation in Grey Iron City. All the mines have resumed operation, and the furnaces and factories in the city have also resumed production. The dwarves returned to their posts and gradually resumed their daily lives. Belurga did a good job in this regard. He still held some prestige among the dwarves and was able to keep their emotions in check. There was no large-scale unrest. After Belurga finished her report, Fang Hao stood up and said, Let's go to the warehouse. I'll manufacture the equipment directly there so you can sell it to the Federation together. Thank you, sir. That's wonderful. Okay, let's go. The group left the palace and headed directly to the warehouse. Fang Hao directly opened the Lord's book and began crafting 5,000 cannons, along with a corresponding number of crossbows. There were also cannonballs and crossbow bolts. It appeared in an instant. A large number of dwarves were brought over and began organizing the equipment that filled the warehouse. Let's go take a look at the Research Institute. Sir, this way please. Noon. Jinmasada City. As winter turned to spring, the number of residents entering and leaving the city gates began to increase. Villagers from nearby villages also brought their own belongings to the city to exchange for some goods. North Gate. The city gate guards, looking at the enormous golden lion in front of them, were sweating profusely. He gripped the weapon tightly in his hand, fearing that something dangerous might happen. Miss, you cannot bring your mount inside, guard said. Lan Yang stroked the lion's neck, her eyes wide. Why? They can even bring their carriages into the city, but mine can't. The golden lion, too, bares its sharp teeth, expressing its dissatisfaction. Guards took a step back and said, There are regulations in the city that prohibit any dangerous mounts or pets from being brought into the city, except for horses. There are public stables over there where you can store your animals. Lan Yang glanced at the stables over there, then at the goods on his own wagon. He finally nodded. All right, go and store your mounts over there. Yes, sir. His men brought all sorts of mounts to the stables. Only 2 horses were left to pull the carriage. Once the mounts are stored, Lan Yang, hands on her hips, led a group of people into the city. We arrived at an empty stall. All the goods were placed there. These were all spoils she obtained from conquering various mountain strongholds during the winter. She couldn't use them herself, and they weren't easy to sell on the channel. Now that the weather is getting warmer, I'm bringing them to the city to sell. I'll buy some seeds so I can cultivate the land when I get back. Once all the goods were brought out, Lan Yang began to shout loudly to attract customers. Soon, the stall attracted a lot of people who started asking about the prices. This stall was the most bustling in the entire market. Sir, you are truly remarkable, soldiers said flatteringly. Lan Yang's face lit up with joy. She rubbed her slightly dry throat and said, if we let Mao Xiao and Xiong Dazhuang in, I'll perform 2 of my special skills. It'll be even more exciting. Yes, yeah. The soldiers gave an awkward laugh. Just when the stalls were bustling and business was booming, a group of people approached from afar, looking menacing. Hey, who gave you permission to set up stalls here? The crowd surrounding the stall was pushed aside, and 6 strong men squeezed in, shouting loudly. As soon as this commotion started, the surrounding crowd of shoppers scattered in fright. Nobody wants to cause any trouble. Is there a problem? Lan Yang stepped forward. The question is, have you paid the management fees and stall fees? Lan Yang frowned. Management fee? Booth fee? This wasn't her first time at Jinmasitu. She'd never heard of these fees before. Moreover, this word sounds like a modern term no matter how you look at it. This era is different from the modern one. Most of the people who come to the city to sell their goods are farmers from nearby villages. They won't bring anything of value at all. Someone wanted to sell 2 beast-hide pheasants in exchange for 2 tools, while someone else brought their own vegetables to exchange for some salt. That's how they always change them. Where would I get the money to pay so many fees? When did this kind of fee come about? You guys aren't thugs, are you? What a load of rubbish, the leader cursed, then said to his companions behind him. Illegal street vending. Everything is confiscated. As they spoke, the group reached out and took everything from the stall. Who dares? Lan Yang roared. Oh dear, you've really gone too far. You dare to cause trouble in this city? The group remained unfazed. At this moment, a deep voice came from behind. What happened? Everyone looked over and saw a burly man with a fierce face, wearing an expensive nobleman's robe, standing at the back of the crowd. The men's eyes lit up immediately, and their fierce gazes instantly turned into fawning. Boss, these people sold their goods without paying taxes. However, Lan Yang's gaze returned to the man's. Both of them had eyes that blazed with hatred. Li Jinhu, so you were here. Men are no strangers. It was Li Jinhu, one of the 3 leaders who escaped from Camp the Killer. At the time, Fang Hao was arresting him, and Lan Yang was also looking for clues about him. I never expected to run into him here. Moreover, judging from his appearance, he's doing quite well in the city. He's even become the head of the city's urban management department. She had been wondering who told these people to pay this money and that money. It turned out they were bandits who had changed professions. Lan Yang stared at Li Jinhu. Li Jinhu's heart skipped a beat. He recognized Lan Yang at first glance. They actually met here. Yesterday, when the World Channel opened, he checked it immediately. He was even sending messages in the World Channel, making fun of it. But when everyone started talking about Fang Hao, who was at the top of the rankings, Li Jinhu felt nervous. I immediately checked the leaderboard, and sure enough, Fang Hao was number 1 on all 3 lists. As someone who had once ambushed Fang Hao, he simply couldn't calm down. Those who ever offended Fang Hao are all dead. He only narrowly escaped death. Originally, I planned to stay in the city for a while. Now that Lan Yang had caught them in the act, Li Jinhu was shocked, flustered, and filled with fear. His gaze swept over Lan Yang's city lord's book at his waist. A fierce glint flashed in his eyes. What's going on? Li Jinhu asked in a serious voice, feigning composure, still inquiring about work. The underling immediately said, Boss, they didn't pay the stall fee and management fee. Li Jinhu put his hands behind his back and said coldly, According to Jinmasitu's latest regulations, the markets and stalls in the city must be managed and planned in a unified manner. Stalls must pay management fees and stall fees. Since you haven't paid, your goods will not be confiscated. You will come with us. Once you have paid the money, we will let you come back. No one spoke at the surrounding stalls. It seems this so-called latest regulation is true, and the others have also paid the money. At the same time, a large crowd gathered behind Li Jinhu once again. There are at least 20 or 30 people in total. Lan Yang recognized some of the faces. They were Li Jinhu's former bandits. They all have a lot of lives on their hands. Ironically, they're all now dressed in standard leather armor, like city security personnel. Li Jinhu, you're actually here, Lan Yang said through gritted teeth. Li Jinhu has killed countless people. The number of transmigrators and natives combined is well over several hundred. Now that he has become a leader in the city, Lan Yang is even more eager to stab him to death right now. Li Jinhu ignored Lan Yang's words. Instead, he made a gesture to his subordinates. More than 20 henchmen blocked their way out. Lan Yang and the others also realized that something was wrong. This is Jinmasitu. They are trapped here and cannot escape. Lan Yang's expression turned grim. Greatsword infantry whispered to him, "Sir, send the message out first, or there might be danger." Good. Lan Yang took 2 steps back and hid behind guards. Open the city lord's book and send a message to Fang Hao. Li Jinhu has besieged me and my men in Jinmasitu. Li Jinhu's expression changed instantly when he saw Lan Yang open the city lord's book. They wanted to get someone up there, but it wouldn't be quick. With a chilling expression, he said, "Take them down. We need to speed up the progress on the revolver project. At the current pace, it's still too slow." The room was covered with blueprints on the table. After listening to the reports from the R&D staff, Fang Hao spoke up. Yes, we'll try our best to speed things up," Chao Junming said immediately. The dwarves standing nearby nodded in agreement. She seemed quite afraid of Fang Hao. Fang Hao looked at blueprint, then at the appearance of the others. He stated directly, "I need to see a mature revolver sample within a week. If that's not possible, they can all go mine." This sweat began to appear on everyone's foreheads. Who wants to go mining? They don't want to go to that dark mine. Chao Junming wiped the sweat from his forehead and said in a low voice, "Sir, a week is too short. How about a month? I'll definitely be able to produce a sample then." A month? The blueprint came out before winter. What have you guys been doing for so long? This, Chao Junming didn't know how to answer. No wonder Fang Hao was angry. When he arrived, accompanied by Belerga, there were still people yawning as they came over. The blueprint that Chao Junming presented was not significantly different from the one he presented last time. Fang Hao suspects that they did absolutely nothing this winter. Leaving aside the development of other instruments, there has been absolutely no progress with the revolver. Holding a picture and repeating a bunch of terms to him over and over again, as if he were an idiot. "Chao Junming, if you can't finish it in a week, you'll be the first one to go mining," Fang Hao said, then turned and left. Chao Junming and the others behind him collapsed to the ground, their legs giving way. He quickly got up and began to reorganize the blueprint, sending each part to the factory for production. A week is too short. They might not even be able to make all the parts. Stepping out of the research institute, Fang Hao began to consider how to improve the efficiency of these guys. Without a leader in any industry, these guys can slack off whenever they want, getting up later than you, which isn't a solution. The world channel is open, and lords all over the world are engaged in an equipment competition. Their negligence could very well kill everyone. We need to find them a supervisor. They were able to set work goals. With that thought in mind, he strode out. Upon reaching the central square, Lord's book emitted a notification sound. It seems like he's been getting a lot more attention lately. I opened it and took a look. A private message from Lan Yang. But when Fang Hao saw the content, his brows furrowed instantly. Li Jinhu? Oh no. Upon seeing the message Lan Yang sent, Fang Hao knew something was wrong. Given Li Jinhu's character, it's highly likely that Lan Yang is in danger right now. Fang Hao immediately sent a message to Lan Yang to inquire about the specific situation, but no reply was received. Seeing that Fang Hao's expression was off, Belerga, who was standing next to him, also realized that something had happened. He immediately asked, "Sir, is there something wrong?" Fang Hao asked, "Can we contact the human city of Jinmasitu?" Belerga shook his head. Gray Iron City only maintains contact with Silverwing City and cannot contact other cities. Fang Hao thought for a moment, and then said, "Contact Silverwing City immediately and tell them about this sale of equipment. Also, tell them that Jinmasitu has arrested a transmigrator named Lan Yang and to ensure her safety. You cannot teleport directly to Jinmasitu. Even if Fang Hao were to rush there now, it would still take him several hours. By the time he gets there, the person will already be in trouble. Therefore, the first priority is to ensure that Lan Yang survives. Upon hearing Fang Hao's instructions, Balurga nodded. Understood, sir. I will contact Silverwing City immediately. Good. Fang Hao nodded, and then, without lingering, released the teleportation light screen and returned to the main city. Balurga, meanwhile, hurried to the palace to contact Silverwing City. Jinmasitu, Market District. Lan Yang closed the city lord's book and took the beast whip hanging from his waist. Smack! With a flick of his whip, he struck the flatbed cart in front of him. The wooden handrail of the car body shattered instantly, sending with chips flying everywhere. The surrounding residents scattered and hid at a distance to continue watching the commotion. Meanwhile, they whispered among themselves about what Li Jinhu and others had been doing recently. What? You dare to make a move in the city? Aren't you afraid of death? Li Jinhu stepped forward from behind, waved his hand lightly, and a group of his underlings surrounded the men. Lan Yang stared intently at him. What she wanted most was to kill Li Jinhu, but he also knew in his heart that Li Jinhu had taken away most of Bandit Camp's property, and now he's dressed in aristocratic attire, so it seems he's bought himself a new identity. Since I am in Jinmasitu, I am on someone else's territory. Li Jinhu, it's just that you didn't pay any street vendor tax. I'll make it up to you. Lan Yang suppressed his anger and said loudly. Although she was naturally lively, she wasn't stupid. Once in Li Jinhu's hands, I can easily imagine what my fate would be. Now that we've discovered Li Jinhu's whereabouts, we can settle accounts with him later. After hearing this, Li Jinhu's face remained gloomy, his eyes rapidly changing until they became even colder. He shouted, "Kill them all for committing murder in the street. Kill." Li Jinhu's underlings are all from bandits, and they themselves possess a certain level of combat ability. One by one, they drew their swords from their waists, instantly exuding a fierce aura. Like bandits raiding, they shouted and charged towards Lan Yang and his group. They separate and come together, yet they also resemble a team fighting together. Lan Yang realized that since the other party had already shown their weapon, if he didn't fight back, he would only be waiting to die. He gritted his teeth and said, "Try not to kill anyone." As soon as he finished speaking, he lashed out with the whip in his hand again. Snap! With a loud bang, the whip struck one of the henchman's wrists. The henchman's face changed, and the weapon fell to the ground. The flesh on his wrist was torn open, leaving a jagged wound. The younger brother clutched his wrist and wailed loudly. People never expected that this seemingly petite girl with dark skin would be so unexpected. The whip was used with unusual ferocity. More and more people began to rush forward. Lan Yang wielded the soft whip faster and faster, like a black snake spitting its tongue, the tip of the whip constantly lashing at the enemy's shoulders, wrists, neck, and other areas not protected by armor. After each strike, the person hit would hug their spot and howl loudly in pain. The force was considerable. The rest of the group rushed forward and engaged greatsword infantry in battle, although Li Jinhu's side had more people. However, most of them are from bandits and thugs, and their fighting ability is still somewhat inferior to that of formerly recruited soldiers. The two sides wrestled, but remained in a stalemate. "Kill them quick," Li Jinhu urged loudly. The henchmen around them charged forward again, seemingly oblivious to their own danger. Lan Yang lashed out with her whip once more. This time, however, it wasn't a whipping. Instead, the whip coiled around a person like a serpent, pulling them close. He reached out and grasped a dagger in his hand. It was pressed against the man's throat. "Li Jinhu, tell your men to back off, or I'll kill him and see how you become the boss," Lan Yang shouted. The faces of the men who rushed up changed instantly, and they all looked at Li Jinhu. "Good, very good. You little girl are indeed quite capable," Li Jinhu said in a deep voice, her face full of resentment. "Come back first." His men, looking disheveled, all retreated. They hadn't expected these people to be so fierce. They outnumbered them, yet they were beaten to this state. The henchman who was being held hostage tried to resist and struggle. Lan Yang struck him in the groin from behind with his knee, and he immediately curled up and stopped struggling. "Take us out of the city," Lan Yang said. Li Jinhu sneered. "You can't take it out." Just as the two sides were locked in a standoff, a group of guards dressed in standard armor and with iron swords at their waists arrived. The captain, with a gloomy expression, surveyed the scene. He said coldly, "You dare cause trouble in the city? You don't want to live anymore, do you?" Li Jinhu glanced at Lan Yang with disdain, adjusted his collar, and strode forward. "Captain, these people refuse to pay the management fees set by the city lord, and are even carrying weapons and injuring people on the street. The captain frowned, glanced at Li Jinhu, then at the smashed stall and Lan Yang and the others. He said coldly, "Take them all down and kill any who resist on the spot." Swish, swish, swish. All the soldiers drew their swords from their waists, and the crossbow bolts loaded with arrows were pointed at the group. Lan Yang saw this scene. They also knew they couldn't leave the city. He gestured for his men to put down the weapon, then shouted, "I am the sister of the Lord of Li Sis City. I demand that you guarantee my safety and contact Li Sis City. I will compensate you for your losses." The soldiers, who were about to violently suppress these people, suddenly stopped in their tracks. His gaze then turned to the captain behind him. Li Jinhu immediately explained, "Captain, they are the Transmigrators team. They could not possibly be the City Lord's sister. Arrest them." The market was in chaos at this time. Not to mention the stalls. The crowd of onlookers was 3 or 4 layers deep. The captain waved his hand. "Take him away. Lock him up in dungeon first." Dungeon, a repeat offender. Lan Yang and his companions, bound by heavy shackles, sat on tattered straw mats, their backs against the damp wall. The air was filled with a damp, cold, and rotten smell, which was even more disgusting and unpleasant than when Lan Yang and the others hid in the cave. Sitting here now, she realized she had acted impulsively. Li Jinhu may look burly, but he is extremely meticulous. They're probably already plotting how to kill us all. This era still had a deep-rooted hierarchical system. When nobles commit murder, sometimes there is no need for a trial. Such matters will not even alarm the city lord. They all died silently. Li Jinhu wants to get rid of me quickly to prevent the boss from coming to rescue me? Isn't he afraid the boss will just kill him? No. Even if he doesn't kill me, the boss will kill him. I'm doomed. I'm afraid I won't be able to get out of here. As he thought about it, Lan Yang's expression grew increasingly grim. The city lord's book was taken away, and they had no way to deal with it. Just as his mind was racing, clang, the iron gate at the end of the corridor was opened. The footsteps grew louder as they approached, and soon a dungeon guard entered, accompanied by several guards. Dungeon guards, pointing to Lan Yang. "Come out here." Lan Yang's expression changed, and the other greatsword infantry members imprisoned with him immediately shielded him behind them. "I am from Li Sis City. You can think it over now," Lan Yang said loudly. The dungeon guard sneered. "Anyone with even the slightest connection to Li Sis wouldn't be sent here directly. Come out, or we won't hesitate to shoot your men and drag you out," the dungeon guard said coldly. Several guards behind him immediately reached for the crossbow bolts behind them. Lan Yang paused for a moment, then stood up. "Sir, please don't go out. It'll be even more dangerous if you go out." "Yes, sir, you can't go with them." A group of greatsword infantry members immediately spoke up to stop them. They were also feeling resentful. Those troublemakers were clearly incompetent, yet they had these people backing them up. Lan Yang glanced back and said, "Don't do anything foolish. Let's wait for someone to come and rescue us." Several greatsword infantry members fell silent. Lan Yang walked towards the front of the iron cage. The guards opened the iron cage, making way for them. The other people who followed them and looked wary. This young woman is not to be trifled with. At least 4 or 5 people have fallen victim to her. After stepping out of the iron cage, Lan Yang followed the others outside. Jinmasitu, the city lord's mansion. On the spacious bed, Lord Aiskiel was pleasuring himself on the body of a maid. Just as they were getting into the swing of things, there was a sudden, urgent knocking at the door. Ezekiel, seemingly oblivious, continued to sway his obese body, sweating profusely. Finally, after letting out a roar with his head held high, he heard a knock on the door. He pulled up his trousers and draped a leather cloak over his bulky body. Snap! He slapped the maid on the bottom and said, "Stop playing dead. Go open the door." The maid quickly got up, ran to the door, and opened it. A neatly dressed butler stood outside the door, ignoring the strange smell emanating from the room. He took 2 steps forward and said, "Lord City Lord." Ezekiel's face was filled with displeasure. He hates it when someone interferes with him at this time and affects his performance. He shifted his bulky body and sat down to the side. He poured himself a glass of fruit wine, savored it carefully, and then asked, "What's the matter? Why are you in such a hurry?" The old butler bowed slightly and glanced at the disheveled maid beside him. "You can go out now." The maid glanced at Aiskiel, who nodded, then picked up the clothes scattered on the ground and ran out. After everyone else was in the room, the butler then spoke. "Lord Aiskiel, news has just come from Silverwing City that we have captured a Transmigrators. She is a very important person, and we must ensure her safety." Did they arrest people from Silverwing City? Isn't this guy insane? Only a few factions can transmit messages to hundreds of cities across the land through Silverwing City. The Hall of Justice is associated with the church or with a prominent figure in the city. Although he was the local tyrant of Jinmasitu, he was also unwilling to provoke Silverwing City. Ezekiel put down his glass. Who is that transmigrator from Silverwing City? What did she do to get her arrested? Have you found out? He planned to ask first to find out. Unless there's something really serious, he'll just release them. Silverwing City is currently preparing for a war against the Undead. Hopefully, they won't turn their attention to us. The butler was about to speak. A servant strode in and reported in a deep voice, Lord City Lord, Merchant Alliance has sent someone over, saying they have something important to discuss with you. Not far behind the attendant stood a goblin dressed in a black suit. No one would overlook the goblin because of his small stature, because he represents the Merchant Alliance, which, although a neutral force, acts as a merchant. However, in terms of power and financial resources, it far surpasses the 100 Cities Federation. Ezekiel frowned and gestured for the butler to wait aside. Please let the gentleman from Merchant Alliance in. The attendant stepped aside and gestured for them to proceed. The goblin pushed up his glasses and strode into the room. After giving a slight bow, he said calmly, Lord Ezekiel, I am here on behalf of the Merchant Guild. Please ensure the safety of one person. Upon hearing this, Ezekiel's heart skipped a beat. Who is it? Lan Yang, a human transmigrators, was arrested today in Jinmasitu City. The Merchant Alliance does not interfere in the internal affairs of cities, but we request that the city lord ensure her personal safety before confirming her guilt. Ezekiel glanced to the side, and the butler nodded slightly. It was confirmed that he was referring to this person named Lan Yang. At this moment, Ezekiel was even more shocked. Just who was this transmigrator that both Silverwing City and Merchant Alliance wanted to protect him? He dared not offend Silverwing City, nor did he want to offend Merchant Alliance. Jinmasitu's development still relies on the Merchant Alliance channel. Ezekiel dared not delay any longer. He immediately said, Butler, go and investigate this transmigrator's named Lan Yang. Yes, Lord City Lord. The butler hurriedly left, while Ezekiel said to the goblin, Sir, please wait for me in the hall for a moment. I will sort things out and give you an answer then. The goblin nodded. Yes, Lord Ezekiel. The goblin was taken away, and Ezekiel quickly put on her clothes. They rushed to hall in a hurry. Inside the hall, the goblin steward had been waiting for a long time. In the middle of the hall stood a soldier dressed in armor. Ezekiel glanced at him and immediately understood what he meant. He sat down at the top and asked, The person you arrested? The captain lowered his head, looking somewhat uneasy, and sweat began to appear on his forehead. Yes, sir. These people were setting up stalls in the city market. Because they didn't pay their stall fees, they got into a conflict with the newly appointed market management official, Li Jinhu, and his men. It was my men who were on patrol at the time, and they arrested them. This matter has clearly blown up, and the captain doesn't dare to make up any lies. There were many people present at the time, and it would have been easy to find out if an investigation had been conducted. It couldn't have been kept secret. Moreover, both parties showed their weapons at the time, and he was following the procedures, so it shouldn't be blamed on him no matter how you look at it. Upon hearing this, Ezekiel's fat trembled with anger. He remembered that Li Jinhu had given him the idea of charging for market services to increase his income. I never expected something like this to happen so quickly. Moreover, such a big fuss has arisen over a stall fee. They even brought out Silverwing City and Merchant Alliance. Aren't they just wasting their time? Ezekiel pointed and immediately said, Go and release them. If they're missing even a finger, I'll bury you alive. The captain's body trembled, but his feet didn't move. What are you standing there for? Hurry up and go, Ezekiel urged. The captain raised his pale face and said tremblingly, Lord City Lord, Li Jinhu just asked to hand that woman over to him, and now he's probably taken her away. Ezekiel immediately flew into a rage and roared. Then what are you standing there for? Go save them. Go find Li Jinhu to save them. Oh yes, yes. The captain scrambled out, looking utterly disheveled. The shackles rattled. During the shoving, Lan Yang was forced off the carriage and into a room. In the dimly lit room, Li Jinhu, dressed in that noble brocade robe, sat imposingly in a chair. He had one foot on a chair, was holding a wooden skewer, and was shaving his teeth. Behind Li Jinhu stood more than 20 henchmen, most of whom were injured, and several had bandages wrapped around their necks. At this moment, he stared coldly at Lan Yang. his eyes filled with anger and hatred. Lord Li Jinhu, the person has been brought, the person behind him said. Li Jinhu waved his hand, and his henchman immediately stepped forward to slip some money to the guards who were being escorted over. The guards chuckled as they pocketed the money, turned and left, closing the door behind them. The door closed, making the room even darker. Li Jinhu looked at Lan Yang with great interest and said with a sneer, "Well, Lan Yang, did you ever expect this day to come? The roles have reversed, and the hunter has become the hunted." Lan Yang's eyes were filled with anger, but not fear. She led her men in a long battle against Li Jinhu's bandits, and even considered being killed by them. Now I only regret that I miscalculated and fell into Li Jinhu's hands. Looking at Li Jinhu, who had a smug look on his face, he said, "How long can you keep laughing? Someone will avenge me in the future. The only difference is that we'll die a little sooner or a little later. Haha, you've got guts. Right now, you really are like a lioness suppressing her anger." Li Jinhu flicked his toothpick and said, "You mean Fang Hao? It would take him at least half a month to get here from Li Sis. I don't think he'd come looking for me because you're a dead man. Even if he did, Jinmasitu isn't his home. What could he do to me?" He panicked when he discovered that Lan Yang was sending out messages. He was terrified that Fang Hao would come and kill him. But now that I've calmed down, I've come to understand. Would Fang Hao really go to such lengths to kill someone as dead as Lan Yang? Even if it takes half a month to get here, do they have the ability to kill such an official in the city? Even if it's just a purchase, it's just a minor official managing the market. Not just anyone can be killed. How do you know that Brother Hao doesn't have teleportation or anything like that? Li Jinhu was taken aback, then burst out laughing the next second. "You're really funny. Damn it. Teleportation? You think it's some kind of teleportation ring in a game?" Seeing that the other party was not afraid at all, Lan Yang said again, "Li Jinhu, do you dare to fight me one-on-one? You're a grown man. You're not afraid of a woman like me, are you?" Li Jinhu smirked, patted his chest in a flustered manner, and said jokingly, "Oh dear, I'm actually a little scared. What if you beat me to death? You'll scare me to death." The henchman behind him also burst into laughter. Lan Yang's face grew even darker, and the murderous intent in his eyes intensified. But the more she acted this way, the happier Li Jinhu became. When he was a bandit, he saw this kind of look all the time. Some even looked like they wanted to eat him alive and drink his blood. Lan Yang is nothing compared to this. Wow, that's really scary. Li Jinhu looked at his underling. "Are the shackles okay?" "Don't worry, boss, it's definitely secure. Even if she breaks free, the brothers can hold her down so you can have some fun in peace," said one of the underlings. "That's good." Li Jinhu got up, lifted the bed sheet next to him to reveal various weapons underneath, took out a leather whip and said, "I heard you like whips. I have some here too. It will definitely be a lot of fun. Don't worry, I won't let you die. My brothers and I will play with you until you have no strength left, and then you will starve and thirst to death. Sigh, it's a pity you're so dark-skinned. Not my type." "Boss, you don't like it, but we do." "Yeah. Boss, you go first, but don't kill yourself. She whipped me several times. I'm going to get my revenge on her." The younger brothers started to jeer. Lan Yang looked at the various weapons hidden under the bed, and a look of fear appeared on her face. Death may not be so scary, but being tortured continuously, unable to die, is still quite frightening. Calculated based on time. Upon receiving the message, Fang Hao immediately teleported to his city and then headed straight here. Even so, there isn't enough time. As Li Jinhu said, the question is whether they have the ability to intervene in Jinmasitu's affairs. Even if Fang Hao came to save her later, she would be crippled even if she didn't die after being tortured by these beasts. Thinking of this, Lan Yang gritted her teeth. He lowered his head and rammed his head against the wall, intending to kill himself. But Li Jinhu, who was standing to the side, kept an eye on her while she spoke, and stopped her as soon as she made a move. They pinned the person to the ground. "Want to commit suicide? It's not that simple. If you don't have fun with your brothers, you can't even die." Li Jinhu glanced back at his men and said, "Help her up. Let me have my fun first, then we'll take turns." "Fuck you, Li Jinhu." Lan Yang cursed loudly. "Haha, I like you just the way you are." Li Jinhu laughed wildly. Laughter echoed in the room. Just as Li Jinhu began to undress, suddenly, hurried footsteps came from outside the door, as if a large group of people had rushed in. Before the people in the room could react, the door was kicked open, and a group of armored soldiers rushed in. The one leading the group was the patrol captain who had arrested Lan Yang. The captain glanced at Lan Yang, who was being held up. His clothes were intact, and there was no blood on him. He secretly breathed a sigh of relief and said, "Take the person away." Li Jinhu frowned. "Captain, what's going on?" "We agreed that I would handle this person." The captain glared at Li Jinhu, reached into his pocket, pulled out a few gold coins, and threw them on the ground. "If you want people, go ask the city lord. If you want to die, don't drag us into it." Li Jinhu looked at the money on the ground, even more surprised. "Fang Hao is here." "No, that's impossible. It couldn't be him from such a far distance. And besides, if Fang Hao came, given his vengeful nature, he would definitely come in person. That means Fang Hao had someone interfere in this matter. The city lord's mansion should personally order the release of the people. Is Fang Hao so powerful that he can interfere with Jinmasato even when he's not around? How is that possible?" The captain glanced at his men and said coldly, "Are you deaf? Take Miss Lan Yang to the carriage. We're going back." The group was about to leave with Lan Yang. Li Jinhu suddenly stood up. "Wait." Then, looking directly at the captain, he said, "She caused trouble in the market with her men and injured people with weapons. I'll interrogate her before you take her away." He knew that Fang Hao had found someone to protect Lan Yang. Now that she's been taken away, it's obviously impossible to kill her again later. We need to find a private opportunity to kill her outright, to eliminate any future trouble. "Yeah, Li Jinhu, you should go and talk to the city lord." The captain, whose expression remained grim, said to his subordinates, "Take Miss Lan Yang out." Li Jinhu frowned, his gaze falling on the weapon under the bed, but he still didn't have the courage to pick it up. But I was unwilling to just let the other person leave. Following behind the group, they walked outside together. I stepped out of the dimly lit room. The warm sunshine helped Lan Yang's complexion recover somewhat. She hadn't said a word the whole time. She just followed guards out. Guards followed them out of the courtyard. Outside the gate, a carriage was parked, and next to it were a group of greatsword infantry members who were being held captive. Upon seeing Lan Yang emerge, his face immediately lit up with joy, and he rushed over to inquire about the situation. The shackles on his body were removed. The captain said, "Miss Lan Yang, these are your items. Please check if you are missing anything. The whip and the city lord's book are both inside." Lan Yang nodded. "Nothing is missing." "Very well, Lord City Lord. A banquet will be held at the city lord's mansion. Please come over," the captain said with a smile. Lan Yang packed away her belongings one by one. He glanced behind him at Li Jinhu and the others in the courtyard and frowned slightly. He said to the captain, "Well, things happened suddenly. My men are still waiting outside the city. Without my news, things might get messy." He paused slightly and said, "Why don't you send us out first, so we can let our men know we're safe, and then we can go to the city lord's mansion for the banquet later?" The captain and the others agreed. The men left outside the city will definitely get very anxious if they don't see him for a long time. It's quite possible that the news has already leaked out. Let's hope it doesn't cause any more trouble. All right, let's leave the city first, and then head to the city lord's mansion together after Miss Lan Yang has settled her men. Okay, Lan Yang nodded with a smile. "Miss Lan Yang, please get in the carriage." Lan Yang boarded the carriage and sat quietly inside. She didn't look at Li Jinhu outside, but she could guess that he looked unwilling at the moment. "You'd better not leave. We'll see who dies then." The carriage began to move slowly. We exited the dark alley. Pulling the curtain open a crack, I saw that the carriage was heading out of the city. Lan Yang finally let out a heavy sigh of relief. "That's where I almost died. That was too dangerous." We left the city gate. From a distance, you can see the soldiers stationed there, as well as the golden lion kept in the stable. Lan Yang gently tapped the carriage, causing it to stop. "Let's stop here for now and go over there ourselves. Lions are afraid of strangers, and getting too close could be dangerous," Lan Yang said. The escorting soldier also saw the enormous lion. Hearing Lan Yang say that, they naturally didn't dare to get close. "Okay, once Miss Lan Yang has finished giving her instructions, just come back here and meet up with us," the captain said. "Okay," Lan Yang smiled. Then, he led his men and hurried toward where the others were encamped. I narrowly escaped death. Being back with my own people really feels like being reborn. They saw Lan Yang and the others return. The soldiers who had set up camp all got up. Seeing that everyone looked disheveled and even had injuries, they realized that something was wrong. "Sir, what's going on?" someone asked immediately. Lan Yang glanced sideways at the guards waiting in the distance. He said in a low voice, "Bring the fur ball and the horses over. We'll go back immediately. I'll tell you more on the way." "Yes, sir." Everyone sprang into action instantly. They started organizing the items, and the golden lion and horses were also brought over. Lan Yang glanced at the guards in the distance again. He flipped himself onto the lion's back and said, "Let's go home." Splash, splash. The group mounted their horses and galloped off into the distance. The patrol captain, who was still waiting in the distance, was instantly dumbfounded. "What's going on? Why did they all run away? Didn't you say you were going back for the banquet? Why did you leave so soon?" "Hey, Miss Lanyang, Miss Lanyang," the captain shouted. Unfortunately, the distance was too far, and the other party was leaving even faster. He wasn't even given a chance to speak or try to persuade them to stay. Just then, a man on horseback approached. She said softly, "Captain, my wife said that something has come up, so we'll talk about the banquet another time. She will personally visit the city lord at that time." But the city lord has already prepared a banquet, the captain said hurriedly. The soldier on horseback continued, "I also need the captain to explain to the city lord that there is something truly important that requires him to return." He finished speaking without waiting for the captain to say anything. He turned and urged his horse onward, chasing after the retreating group. The captain stood there, somewhat at a loss. He had already made a mistake, and now the city lord wanted him to bring the person over to mitigate the impact of the incident. Unexpectedly, the person turned around and ran away. What terrible things has he done? I encountered this series of events. When even the last figure could no longer be seen, the captain turned around and said, "Let's go back." Everyone drove away in empty carriages. They rode at breakneck speed all the way. Without taking any rest along the way, they returned directly to their city in one go. When we entered the city gate and stopped, the horses were almost exhausted. His entire body was enveloped in a layer of white mist, and he was panting heavily. His subordinate took the horse's reins. He immediately said, "My lord, Lord Fang Hao is waiting for you at the city lord's mansion. Please go there quickly." "Okay, I understand." Lanyang didn't stop and quickly headed towards the city lord's mansion. Inside the hall, several kinds of food were laid out on the spacious table. Fang Hao, Dimitrika, and a woman dressed in leather armor sat at the table. Upon seeing the food, Lanyang couldn't help but swallow. "I didn't feel it just now, but now I suddenly feel hungry." "Boss." Lanyang sat down at the table and picked up a meat pie to eat. Fang Hao glanced at the little dark-skinned girl. "I'm relieved that no one was injured. Tell me everything in detail," Fang Hao said. Lanyang took several big bites, her cheeks bulging, and recounted everything that had happened in the city during the day. "Actually, it's not a big deal. No one else would make such a big fuss over a management fee. But Lanyang and Li Junhu are enemies, and it's the kind of hatred that's irreconcilable. The moment they met, their first thought was to kill each other. Therefore, as soon as the incident occurred, Li Junhu used all his means to try to kill Lanyang first. In any case, the situation between the two parties is beyond reconciliation." After finishing his story, Lanyang said, "He still wants to sleep with me, boss. You have to kill him. Maybe he'll run away tomorrow." They continued eating and talking at the same time. His mouth was slurred and unclear. What official position did he buy in Jinmasato? What connections does he have? Fang Hao continued to ask. "It's a position similar to a city management officer, and judging from his appearance, even the city's guards don't give him much face. So he probably doesn't have any connections," Lanyang replied. Fang Hao nodded and didn't ask any further questions. Clearly, Lanyang didn't know much either, and had nowhere to inquire about detailed information. And this is what happened today. This also served as a reminder to Fang Hao of the danger posed by Li Junhu. This Li Junhu is clearly not the kind of bandits who only know how to rob. He once provided a lot of advice to those bandits in Duoming's mountain stronghold. This allowed the Duoming's mountain stronghold, which originally had a population of around 100, to rapidly grow to several thousand. They even bought cannon, which almost caused the Li Sis team to suffer a huge loss. This person is not only quick-witted, but also not a miser. He knows how to spend money in a way that benefits him. Now, he has only bought a minor official position in the city. It's as if we leave it alone. The next time we meet, what if he's actually become an important official? They're really not easy to kill. Therefore, this time we must kill him outright to avoid future troubles. Do you have a photo of Li Junhu? Fang Hao slapped Lanyang's small hand as she reached for something. It almost caused an accident, but I still had the mind to put it in my mouth. Lanyang rubbed the back of his hand and shook his head. No, but he looks very recognizable. You can remember him as soon as you hear his name. Fang Hao nodded and said to the person beside him, Shall you? I'll leave this to you. Have Lanyang describe his appearance and Li Junhu's address. Then you go and kill him. The woman sitting on the other side of Fang Hao is Hilda, the singer of the disaster song. He is a ghost hero by nature, capable of assassinating enemies from the shadows. Understood, sir. Xiaoyu sat down next to Lan Yang and began to listen to her describe Li Zhenhu's physical characteristics. After the description is finished, Xiaoyu stood up. My lord, I'll set off now. Fang Hao nodded. There shouldn't be any church members in Jinmasitu, but you should still be careful. When you get back, have Lan Yang let me know, and I'll pick you up. Yes, sir. As soon as he finished speaking, Xiaoyu's figure vanished like ink. Lan Yang stared wide-eyed at the scene before her in astonishment. As night fell, Jinmasitu gradually returned to calm. In the dimly lit room, more than 20 men sat or stood silently waiting. On the bed in the room, there were various packed packages. They looked like they were about to leave and flee at any moment. Finally, the door opened, and Li Zhenhu, reeking of alcohol, pushed it open and walked in. Big brother, how's the situation? Should we still run? The henchmen immediately surrounded them. This happened today, and Lan Yang was rescued again. In the afternoon, he instructed his men to gather all their belongings and wait for his message in the room. He went out and first forced the captain to give him some money, then learned some details about the situation. It was the goblins of the Merchant Alliance who learned that Lan Yang had been saved. The city lord didn't want to offend the Merchant Alliance, so he simply released Lan Yang. Knowing that Fang Hao was only intervening through the Merchant Alliance, Li Zhenhu felt a little calmer and was no longer in a hurry to escape. As dusk approached, he hosted another banquet for some of the city's powerful and influential figures. After spending a large sum of money, he received a promise. There is currently a vacancy for a quartermaster in the city, and he will be introduced to the city lord. This made Li Zhenhu even happier. If he could get this position, he would be able to squeeze into an important official post. Even if Fang Hao comes, we can't just kill him without warning. I could even try to find a way to mess with him. Seeing his anxious underlings, Li Zhenhu smiled and said, Why are you leaving? From now on, we'll live a life of luxury in this city. Big brother, you found a way. During the day, Li Zhenhu was terrified, but now he was certain that Fang Hao wouldn't be coming anytime soon, and that as long as he became the quartermaster, even if Fang Hao was a pretty boy from Lisa's city, he wouldn't be able to do anything to him. Of course, this time, we've also turned misfortune into blessing, finding a new way out and no longer needing to go through this. That's great, brother. Yes, I'm really going to miss this place. You can't bear to part with your little lover, can you? Ha. The atmosphere in the room instantly eased, no longer as oppressive as before. Li Zhenhu waved his hand and said, Everyone got injured today. Take some money, go have some fun tonight, and be back on time tomorrow morning. Okay, big brother. Everyone received their share of the money, said goodbye, and went out to have some fun. Outside the door, only a few henchmen remained to guard the residence. Li Zhenhu returned to his room. Take out a nightstone and place it on the bedside table. In the dim light, I stared blankly at the world channel. He didn't know if he had made the right move, but things had come to this point, and he had no other choice. Time passed slowly, and the room became unusually quiet. In a hazy state, Li Zhenhu seemed to see a person standing in front of the table. Li Zhenhu was suddenly startled. He sprang up instantly and grabbed weapon in his hand. But upon closer inspection, the spot where they had just been was now empty. The room was completely dark. There was no one in sight. Damn, that Fang Hao kid has scared him so much he's gone crazy, Li Zhenhu said, pinching his brow. Just as he was about to lie down and continue resting, a woman's voice rang out. So, you're Li Zhenhu. What? Before the character, Run, could even open its mouth, he felt a sharp, stabbing pain on his neck. He immediately stopped moving and asked, Who are you? I'm here to kill you. You, puff. A sound of flesh being pierced rang out as a sharp blade pierced through his jaw and thrust upwards into his brain. Li Zhenhu's body began to struggle violently, and blood flowed from his 7 orifices. Finally, his body went limp, and he collapsed to the ground, lifeless. Li Zhenhu never expected that he had so many plans and trump cards up his sleeve. Fang Hao wanted to kill him, but it was so easy. There's no need for anyone else to come. What's that sound, brother? Bang! The door was pushed open, and the 2 henchmen who were guarding the door rushed in upon hearing the noise. Xiaoyu's figure vanished into the night like ink splashed on the ground. The next second, he appeared behind his 2 henchmen. 2 daggers pierced their necks. The person slowly fell to the ground. Xiaoyu dragged the 2 into the room and closed the door again. After searching the room and finding nothing of value, they picked up their packed belongings. He went straight out the door and disappeared into the night. The next day, early in the morning, Fang Hao got up, glanced at the Lord's book, and still hadn't received a message from Lan Yang. It seems Xiaoyu hasn't gone back yet, but he wasn't worried. Xiaoyu was already a purple hero, and with his elusive abilities, even if the assassination failed, he wouldn't be in any danger. More likely, no one will ever discover her. After washing up, I got dressed with the help of a maid. He now feels completely integrated into this world. I naturally accept maids dressing me. Go down the stairs. Then they saw skeleton merchant Du Jin was sitting calmly downstairs waiting. Fang Hao was slightly taken aback. Well, it seems like the dead always like to sit down somewhere and start contemplating life. Kill off excess time. Good morning, Du Jin. Du Jin looked up at the sound and saw Fang Hao coming down. He immediately rose and bowed, saying, "Good morning, Lord." "Yes, is there something you need?" "Yes, sir. An hour ago, Mr. Moru from Merchant Alliance sent a teleportation request," Du Jin said. "I haven't finished writing the second chapter yet, so I'll just post one chapter today." Moru is a goblin teller at Merchant Alliance. Yesterday, Fang Hao contacted Jinmasitu through Merchant Alliance to ensure Lan Yang's life. All things considered, I still owe someone a favor. "Let him come over," Fang Hao said. "Yes, sir." Du Jin retreated, and when he returned, he was followed by Moru, a goblin dressed neatly and carrying a briefcase. Despite his small stature, he took big strides, trying his best to keep up with Du Jin. After entering the hall, he then smiled happily. "Mr. Fang Hao, I've missed you so much this winter." Fang Hao also smiled. "Mr. Moru, it's been a long time since I've seen you. I'd like to thank Merchant Alliance for their help yesterday." "What are you saying? Not only are you an important member of the Merchant Alliance, but we are also friends. Helping a friend is the right thing to do." Moru jumped onto a chair next to him. Fang Hao had a maid bring over some fruit wine and asked with a smile, "Even if we're friends, we should still express our gratitude." Moru opened his briefcase, took out a contract, and said, "Let's not talk about that for now. Didn't you say last time that you wanted to open a shop at outpost number 032? That's all settled. This is the contract. Once you sign it, you can open the shop normally. There are rules to follow on it, so be sure to read it carefully." "Okay, sure." Fang Hao took the contract and began to read it carefully. When Moru came last time, Fang Hao asked him to handle the shop matters. "Open a cosmetics store at outpost number 032, with cosmetics on the first floor, clothing on the second floor, and jewelry on the third floor. We don't expect to generate much profit. The important thing is to build brand awareness." However, the shop was closed a bit late. Today is the day Li Rong leaves Silverwing City. She will never see this shop again. But it's nothing. The shop decoration and stocking can be handled by the staff. After reading the agreement, Fang Hao had someone bring him a pen and signed his name on it. He said, "Now this shop is mine." Of course, Mora took out the key from his bag and said, "This is the key to the shop." During the shop renovation, the limit on the number of people allowed to visit the site will be increased to 20. Fang Hao gave instructions to the maid beside him. He brought out the Warfire card of the corresponding price and handed it to Moru. Now, the two sides have reached an agreement. From now on, the shop will be under Fang Hao's use for the next year. Merchant Alliance will not interfere with the use of a store as long as it does not violate Merchant Alliance's rules. "Shall we go check out the shop together now?" Fang Hao said. Mora shook his head and continued, "No rush. There's one more thing." "Oh, what is it?" Mora took out another card and pushed it in front of Fang Hao. "What's this?" He held it in his hand and examined it carefully. The card's material is similar to the Warfire card, resembling a black crystal that has been shaved into a thin layer. The shield in the center features the image of the Warfire coin, surrounded by openwork carvings. It looks very high-end, like a VIP card. This is an invitation card from Merchant Alliance headquarters. With this card, you are free to enter and exit Merchant Alliance headquarters. Outpost number 01, Moru explained. Merchant Alliance headquarters, outpost number 01? Fang Hao's heart skipped a beat. The day before yesterday was the day the World Channel opened. It seems that Merchant Alliance's headquarters are now open to transmigrators. Does everyone have one? Fang Hao asked. Of course not. Apart from a few established and powerful members in each region, only member shops that meet the sales requirements are eligible to obtain this card, Moru said. "Oh, so that means I've met the sales requirements." Certainly, Fang Hao's shop did indeed sell the required quantity of goods. The numbers even reached terrifying levels, and Merchant Alliance, by taking a cut, naturally made a fortune. If goblins had an annual sales record, Fang Hao would definitely be number one in sales. It far surpasses the major established forces in this region. Then I'll keep it and take a look around later. Fang Hao flipped his hand and put the card into his storage space. Mora did not stop him. Instead, he continued, "You must keep this card safe, or you'll be in big trouble if you lose it. Also, Outpost number 01 will be holding a spring auction in 2 weeks, and you can participate in the auction with this invitation card." An auction? He had attended the last Outpost number 032 auction. They sell a lot of good stuff there. But what he regretted not buying was the Goblin Technologies Mana Reactor blueprint. He now plans to build his own air force, and mass-producing energy core is the most important step. I've been waiting for Outpost number 032 to be auctioned again. Now it seems possible that I might be able to buy this blueprint at the Outpost number 01 auction. What's the difference between the Outpost number 01 auction and the Outpost number 032 auction? Moru said, how can the district's outpost compare to the headquarters? That headquarters gathers all the treasures of the entire region. A maid brought over some pastries. Mora didn't stand on ceremony and grabbed one to eat. Oh, I see. And another thing, at Outpost number 01, you can also meet other races. You humans love elves the most, so maybe you'll meet a beautiful elf girl. Mora joked. Oh, really? Fang Hao smiled. The elf was unaware that he already had a half-elf who appeared dignified and serious on the surface, but was actually very clingy in private. Moru popped a few pieces of pastry into her mouth and asked curiously, "Hey, have you guys had breakfast?" Kindness. Fang Hao was taken aback, but immediately realized what was happening. "No wonder you came so early. You're here to freeload a meal." "Haha, look in the kitchen. How's breakfast?" "Yes, master," the maid said as she ran toward the kitchen. "I've had breakfast." After praising the cooking skills again, Moru returned to Merchant Alliance first. After Fang Hao took care of some things in the city, Dimitrika, along with Njia, Air, and Xiaobai, were summoned, with the intention of taking them to visit the Merchant Alliance. Air, in particular, stayed in the city and never went anywhere. This time, I'll also take them to see Merchant Alliance. Step into the teleportation light screen. The 5 of them arrived at Outpost number 032 in an instant. A flat road and rows of neat streetlights. It still makes you feel like you've returned to a modern city. Light screens occasionally lit up around us, and people of various races arrived here through these light screens. They walked forward together. Air and Xiaobai both stared wide-eyed. They looked around nervously and excitedly, occasionally whispering among themselves about some strange races. It's like a village girl who has just arrived in the city. At this point, Njia, who had been there several times before, demonstrated his talent as a guide. From the race of passers-by to the buildings on both sides, everything was explained very thoroughly. Fang Hao didn't even know what some of the shops did, but Njia explained it to him directly. The group chatted as they walked. All 3 women were quite happy, with smiles on their faces. Soon, they arrived at the shop they had rented. This is a 3-story building near Silverwing City. The buildings of Xianming Tower are very similar. Take out the key and open the door. A slightly musty smell wafted over. Inside the shop, some tables and chairs remain, lying on the ground and covered in dust. The group entered the room and opened all the doors and windows. Fang Hao casually snapped a few photos and sent them to Li Rong. "We've booked a shop in Merchant Alliance, which has a layout similar to Xianming Tower in Silverwing City, 3 floors, and we've arranged for someone to prepare the goods." Li Rong quickly replied to the message. "Are you doing this on purpose? I just left with Army, and you've already bought another shop. By the way, what's Merchant Alliance?" Merchant Alliance is a headquarters for buying and selling things. People in the channel always talk about it. Haven't you heard of it? Fang Hao is speechless. Li Rong always attends aristocratic balls and banquets, yet she doesn't know what Merchant Alliance is. "I think I've seen it before, but I've never been in contact with it. Is it impressive to have a shop there?" Li Rong continued to ask. Fang Hao thought for a moment and explained. "It's like a region with its largest and most prosperous shopping mall, where prominent people come to buy things." "Oh, I see. That's really impressive. What will I do if I'm not here?" Li Rong said. "Here's what we'll do. I'll arrange for someone to do some basic renovations, and then you can arrange for people to stock and sell the goods. Once you're back, I'll take over Merchant Alliance. I'll also share the blueprint with you, so you can travel from your location to the Merchant Alliance." Fang Hao sent his thoughts over. "There's nothing I can do but accept it." "Oh well, it's up to you now." "Okay," Fang Hao replied with one sentence, and then hung up the chat. "Check all floors from the 1st to the 3rd floor. There's nothing wrong with the shop. It's just been vacant for a while. We need to open the window and let it air out." After walking around for a while, Fang Hao said to Xiaobai. Xiaobai, this place needs to be cleaned. You'll have to work hard tomorrow and bring some people over to clean it up and then renovate it. Oh, okay, master. What are you planning to do here? Little White asked. She had no objections and was even quite pleased. I don't have to do any work, and after I leave, I don't have to get up early to train with Njia and the others every day. At least I can be lazy for several days, selling cosmetics, clothes, and cleaning services. Understood, master, Xiaobai replied, leaning forward slightly. She leaned directly against Fang Hao. He pinched her butt, and Xiaobai winced in pain before dodging to the side. Shops viewed. They opened the window and locked the door. With Air and Xiaobai by my side, we explored the areas we hadn't visited before, and then continued towards the teleportation array. They were going to continue to Merchant Alliance Outpost number 01 to take a look, arrive at the special teleportation array, and take out the invitation card. Led by a female goblin, the group arrived at a dark blue, oval-shaped, ethereal gate. Please, gentlemen and ladies, the female goblin said respectfully, handing the invitation card back to Fang Hao. Fang Hao nodded. He led the others directly into the blue light curtain. After a brief moment of showing off and feeling weightless, the group found themselves in an unfamiliar place. Distinguished guest, welcome to Outpost number 01. A female voice rang out from the side. A young woman with fair skin and wearing a light blue robe stood respectfully to one side. Her pointed ears were visible through her flowing light green hair. Elf Archer, Tier 5, the legendary elven race. Upon first seeing it, Fang Hao, along with Njia, Air, and others, all took several glances at it. Elven race is truly beautiful, and she naturally exudes a noble and elegant aura. If elves stood here, even races with different aesthetics wouldn't find the elven race ugly. Sir, madam, please come in, the elven race woman said with a smile. Fang Hao and the others nodded and strode out. Stepping out of the teleportation array, the scenery outside suddenly becomes vast. The road was flat and open, and Merchant Alliance flags and welcome banners hung high on the streetlights. In the flower beds on both sides of the road, palm-sized flower fairies are pruning the flower branches. The goddess statue gently lifts the water bottle, pouring water from it. Water splashed up, forming a beautiful rainbow in the sky. On the road, undead wearing tall crowns, fairies frolicking and dancing in the air, elegant elves, naked orcs covered in totems, and sea creatures draped in blue veils. Various races appeared on the streets at the same time. It was very lively. Wow, it's so lively. I wish it were this lively where we live. And Gia's eyes widened. Even Dimitrika, who rarely reacts, is looking around in wonder. Outpost number 01, in Fang Hao's view at this time. It's more like a large tourist area. The environment is so beautifully landscaped that it's like paradise, with sculptures, gardens, fountains, and seas of flowers everywhere. There are also many places that sell snacks. As they walked and looked around, they left the teleportation array area and entered the market area. The area is lined with shops of many different ethnicities. Humans, dwarves, goblins, fairies. They come from all races. Various signs were hanging above. Upon arriving at the human shop, a sign above it read Hall of Justice. Upon entering the shop, one finds several people selecting goods at the counter. A human female shop assistant walked over with a smile. Sir, madam. Okay, let's just take a look around. Okay, feel free to call me anytime if you need anything. Fang Hao nodded and led the group to look around the shop. Brilliant Cavalry Bow, blue. A price, 120 Warfire coins. Classic War Spear, blue, is priced at 200 Warfire coins. The Sun Redwood Staff, blue, is priced at 180 Warfire coins. Fang Hao then looked at all the counters on the first floor. We sell blue equipment, with a small amount of green equipment. Are these sold separately? Fang Hao asked curiously. The female clerk from before walked over quickly, still with her professional smile. Sir, we also sell individual items here, but it's mainly for product display. We handle bulk orders through Merchant Alliance, the saleswoman explained. Fang Hao nodded, indicating that he understood. In other words, the items displayed on the shelves are all for show. Those who come here are all members of the Merchant Alliance, representatives of a faction. If they find something they like, they will naturally buy it in large quantities to equip the army. After thinking it through, Fang Hao's perspective instantly broadened. She felt like she was selling cosmetics at outpost number 032. The business thinking is too narrow. Do you sell blueprints? Sir, blueprint is rarely sold here. It's only occasionally displayed on the counter. the saleswoman continued to explain. Fang Hao then turned his gaze to the second floor. Is there something for sale on the second floor too? Yes, sir. The second floor has requirements. Only those with friendly relations can purchase it. May we take a look around? Of course, sir. Fang Hao and his group went up to the second floor, where there were still cabinets and shelves, but the items inside had reached the level of purple. Trident, purple. A price, 750 Warfire coins, human influence, 500. Stag Warblade, purple. A price, 880 Warfire coins, human influence, 500. Light Knight's Sword, purple. A price, 900 Warfire coins, human influence, 800. Double-Edged Axe, purple. A price, 1,300 Warfire coins, human influence, 800. Justice Force Emblem Shield, purple. A price, 1,500 Warfire coins, human influence, 1,000. Justice Defender Soza, purple. A price, 2,000 Warfire coins, human influence, 1,000. The equipment on the second floor has all been changed to purple. Moreover, the closer you get to the inside, the higher the selling price, and the more influence the human race needs. It was only at this moment that Fang Hao understood what the influence the system had been exerting all along truly meant. It turns out it refers to the eligibility to purchase things. Although I don't know how to check my influence level yet, but with so many system rewards, plus the little-by-little accumulation of plus 10 and plus 20 from completing Merchant Alliance orders, it's estimated to have reached around 1,500. Purchasing equipment here fulfills the requirements. However, his forces are too large. Unless he can buy blueprints, buying a few hundred or a few thousand equipment items will not be of much help to his territory. In the vast army, once lost, it cannot be found. After turning a corner, I found that the third floor was closed and the door was shut. Based on the first floor being blue and the second floor being purple, the third floor should belong to Orange's equipment. Orange is a top-tier item in any faction, and it's the store's signature item. I asked the shop assistant, and they said the items on the third floor would definitely be sent to Merchant Alliance for an auction. After all, various forces would participate in such a large-scale auction. I continued looking around on the second floor. A set of equipment did catch Fang Hao's attention. Spirits of the Enemy, purple. A price, 2,500 Warfire coins, human influence, 1,200. Phoenix Assault Boots, purple. A price, 2,200 Warfire coins, human influence, 1,200. Spirit Bird Gorilla Leather Armor, purple. A price, 2,500 Warfire coins, human influence, 1,200. Sparrow Helmet, purple. A price, 2,300 Warfire coins, human influence, 1,200. Purple Outfit, Spirit Bird Gorilla Leather Armor, purple. Category, Armor. Defense, Level 4 Defense. Set bonus, Strength increased by 10%. Movement speed increased by 35%. Dexterity increased by 30%. Skill regeneration increased by 15%. Description, the Spirit Bird, a bird with enormous wings that cannot fly high, is the armor made from this leather, which can greatly enhance the user's strength and speed. Oops, the stats are pretty good. And Jia, Fang Hao turned around and looked. Then they saw Jia sitting on the stairs, eating and chatting with Air and Xiaobai. The three people regarding these equipment, I have absolutely no interest in weapons. Only he and Dimitrika focused their attention on the equipment in the counter. The three of them seemed to have come here for a picnic. And Jia, Fang Hao called out. Ah, and Jia replied and walked over. This equipment set would suit you quite well. Fang Hao looked at the suit in the display case, and Jia also turned her attention to it. Not bad. He glanced at the price. So expensive. Although she can't see the attributes like transmigrators, the craftsmanship of the leather armor is enough to show that it is a pretty good piece of leather armor. Moreover, the price and description on the side can indicate the level of this armor. It suits you quite well. Fang Hao turned to look at the saleswoman. I'll take this set from the counter. Okay, sir. The teller smiled. Then he instructed his men to retrieve an identical armor from the warehouse and hand it to Fang Hao. And Jia was somewhat stunned. I only came to my senses when I received the leather armor. So expensive. And Jia said in a low voice, I finally met someone who's right for you. So eat less, and it will all come out. You're talking nonsense. This kind of thing is enough for me to live off for the rest of my life. Fang Hao paid at the counter, and without much else to do, walked out of the store. After they went outside, and Jia happily hugged her armor, ignoring the food in her hands. Everything was handed over to Xiaobai. Although Jia rarely participates in battles now, he is still a military general, and he also had a relatively poor childhood. Sometimes they can't even get a meal, and occasionally they have to act as bandits who rob people on the road. Naturally, they also knew how precious a high-quality armor was. Air and Xiaobai could hardly understand this joy. A leather item. Is it really necessary to just sit there and grin like an idiot? The group continued strolling around. They also visited the shops of dwarves, orcs, and even elves. The shops here operate on a similar sales model to human shops. Finished equipment is displayed on the counters on the first and second floors, mainly for sale in bulk. Fang Hao read through all the equipment items. The product range is quite complete, but for Fang Hao, there is no need to replace a large number of products. Before me was a shop belonging to the dead. Fang Hao walked to the front of the shop and pushed open the door. Clang! The copper bell hanging on the door rang crisply, alerting customers to the arrival of customers. Unlike the other shops, the shops of the undead are much quieter. The cabinet, made of bone and glass, displays various finished objects. Tap, tap, tap. A skeleton teller strode out. Upon seeing the humans, orcs, and lizard man enter, he visibly paused, and his soul fire began to sway from side to side. Fang Hao ignored it. Instead, he went straight into the shop and started looking around. Desert Infantry Bow, blue, costs 120 Warfire coins. Snake Tongue Dagger, blue, is priced at 180 Warfire coins. Fang Spear, blue, costs 200 Warfire coins. I looked at several equipment items, and they weren't much different from other stores' equipment. The first floor is predominantly blue, just as Fang Hao was getting bored and wanted to go upstairs. But in the second half, I found something that interested me. Silver Fish Wolf Bone is priced at 450 Warfire coins. Carrion Boar Bone sells for 150 Warfire coins. Desert Camel Bones is priced at 500 Warfire coins. Militia Skeleton with long arms in the sand is priced at 700 Warfire coins. Sand Vulture Bones is priced at 900 Warfire coins. So expensive. Fang Hao was initially surprised to see bones being used as commodities, but then he realized it made perfect sense. But this price is really outrageously expensive. He didn't know anything about the rest of the skeletons. The carrion-eating boar was probably only a second or third-tier beast. Even if a whole batch were shipped over, it wouldn't be worth 150 Warfire coins. But Fang Hao can understand. After all, the purpose of selling bones here is to provide conversions for Undead faction. Naturally, the price will be higher. What level of beast is the Sand Vulture? Fang Hao asked the skeleton clerk beside him. The skeleton clerk looked at him curiously and replied, "Sir, you are at level 6. Okay, I'll take this skeleton. Wrap it up for me." Huh? Oh, the skeleton clerk was a little stunned. I was somewhat surprised that a human would buy bones here. If you want to make soup, just buy it outside. However, when opening a shop in Merchant Alliance, you must abide by the rules here. You cannot refuse to sell goods because of the difference between living beings and the dead. After all, the purpose of opening a store is to do business. The skeleton clerk began packing the vulture's bones for him, while Fang Hao led the others up to the second floor. The second floor still features counters assembled from skeletal frames. Golden crocodile leather armor, purple, a price, 900 Warfire coins. Undead race influence, 800. Quenched one-handed sword, purple, price, 1,000 Warfire coins. Undead race influence, 1,000. Bloodthirsty helmet, purple, a price, 1,000 Warfire coins. Undead race influence, 1,000. Blackbone spear, purple, a price, 1,500 Warfire coins. Undead race influence, 1,200. I looked at the equipment and didn't find anything special about it. Then they moved to the other side. Sand Viper Bones is priced at 1,000 Warfire coins and has an undead race influence of 800. Megasworn Bone is priced at 1,200 Warfire coins and has an undead race influence of 1,000. Giant Hook Scorpion White Bone is priced at 1,500 Warfire coins, 1,200. Human Pilgrimage Skeleton price, 1,500 Warfire coins. Demon Rats Spear Rat Soldier Skeletons are priced at 1,500 Warfire coins. White-Bearded Dwarf Warrior Bones price, 1,800 Warfire coins, 1,500. Lizardman Skeleton price, 2,000 Warfire coins, 1,800. The bones sold on the second floor were even more outrageously priced, almost matching purple equipment. Furthermore, various troop types have emerged. No wonder the living and the dead are locked in a life-or-death struggle. You're putting their bones up for sale as a commodity. That's really going too far. However, it's also clear that the bones being sold are handled with relative restraint. They were all spearmen, warriors, and skirmishers. No special troop types appeared. It's possible that they're considering the feelings of several factions, or it's possible that high-level skeletons aren't sold to outsiders. Or, if the quantity is small, it will be sold as soon as it's displayed. It may also control the development of other undead. Sand venomous snake. What level? What are its characteristics? Fang Hao continued to ask the clerk next to him. A third-tier guest. What are the characteristics? Are you asking about the characteristics before death? The skeleton clerk asked. After the transformation, I asked it what use it was before it died. Oh, after the transformation, the sand venomous snake can burrow into the loose soil, and its attacks carry a certain amount of venom. The skeleton clerk explained. Fang Hao nodded and continued. What about the swamp crocodile? The transformed giant swamp crocodile possesses amphibious characteristics and has a relatively large bite force. Where is the giant hook scorpion? The giant hook scorpion is an 8th-tier unit, with a size close to that of an adult horse. Its 2 forelimb pincers and the sharp stinger at the end of its tail are its primary means of attack. It can also bury its body in the ground for concealment. Fang Hao continued. What are the characteristics of the pilgrimage and the spirit lizard skirmishers? Pilgrimage is a special 5th-tier troop type. When faith is activated, all attributes are enhanced. The spirit lizard skirmisher is also a 5th-tier creature, amphibious, and its movement is unaffected in the dense forest. The pilgrimage is likely a troop type of the human church. Reaching the 5th rank is already considered a pretty good troop type, and activating faith will boost all attributes. That's a pretty good skill. The lizardman troop type is clearly the same as the lizardman troop type. The amphibious nature of the lizardman race does not affect the dense forest operation, and in fact, it does not have a significant effect. No matter how fast they move, they can't outrun the speed of the skeleton mantis people. The mantis man is incredibly effective at hunting. Weaving through the tree branches, it's just like a scene from Naruto. Fang Hao nodded without saying anything and continued walking inside. Inside, there were some organs on display. My eyes scanned them one by one, and all I saw were green and blue. Not a single purple one, let alone orange. After looking through it, I didn't find anything I needed. He then said to the skeleton clerk, I want the black-bone spear, the giant hook scorpion, and the pilgrimage. The skeleton clerk scratched his bald skull. Okay, sir, I have absolutely no idea what's going on. He has been selling goods here for hundreds of years, but this is the first time he has ever seen a human come here to buy bones. And what about the other beastmen women? Not only were they not afraid, they even chatted while eating. The immortal dead have already been accepted by living beings? The skeleton clerk thought to himself as he quickly packed up the items. Guessed it's all packed. Okay. Fang Hao took it. As I turned to go downstairs, the 3 women sat down on the stairs and started chatting. Entering the shop of the dead feels just like being at home. And Jia and Xiao Bai were still eating, enjoying their food. After going downstairs and paying the corresponding amount, all the items were put into the storage space. Carrying large and small packages, along with a bunch of skeletons, doesn't really look very good. They left the shop. The group continued strolling around. Along the way, they passed 2 gardens, and Fang Hao also had a lord's book, so he took a few photos of the 3 women. In a way, I got to experience the modern way of leaving a memento. Along the way, there were still many people around. Most of them looked busy and hurried, but there were also a few like them who were looking around and wandering around. Walking on the road, Fang Hao started thinking about opening a shop here again. Like the shops here, I also have blue and purple equipment, and it includes equipment for humans, dwarves, and trolls. There are also instruments, which can be said to encompass all races. I'm not afraid of bad business. As they walked along the road, none of them had any intention of going into any of the other shops. The types are all similar, and apart from the undead, there are no other items that can significantly improve combat power. We arrived at the central square. The area in front of the buildings was unusually lively. The small stone building has auction appraisal written on its top. Fang Hao and his companions stood at a distance and saw groups of people queuing up. Among these people were the church's humans, stone men, elves, fairies, as well as orcs and trolls. There are also some races that are difficult to identify from their appearance. You can only see their information from a distance. Just as Fang Hao was about to stop someone to ask, I feel like someone is watching me. Looking to the side, He saw a middle-aged man with brown hair and brown eyes standing among a group of gray-haired and bearded dwarves, curiously sizing him up. After hesitating for a moment, after exchanging a few words in hushed tones with the gray dwarf, the middle-aged man strode toward Fang Hao. "Hey, are you even from Earth?" the middle-aged man said. Fang Hao nodded. "Yes, Japanese. From China." The middle-aged man with brown hair was taken aback. He carefully examined Fang Hao, then looked at the hero and the rabbit girl fox woman beside him, his eyes filled with suspicion. "Could you be, cough cough, what's your name?" The middle-aged man became much more polite. "Fule, what about you?" "Oh, my name is Vadi. I thought you were Fang Hao. You startled me." The middle-aged man continued, straightening his collar to reveal 3 large gold rings on his hand. Compared to the middle-aged Westerner in front of him, Fang Hao was dressed much more plainly, in simple trousers and a short-sleeved shirt, looking quite ordinary. However, Dimitrika's armor was more noticeable. Similarly, Air and Xiaobai are also very attractive. I also thought you were Fang Hao," Fang Hao said. "Haha, you're quite interesting, kid." Vadi patted Fang Hao on the shoulder. "I didn't expect to run into one of our Earthlings here." Fang Hao also found it unbelievable. As expected, there are many people who have the opportunity to enter the World Channel. The World Channel has just opened, and some people have already obtained the qualification to come here. But thinking about it, at least hundreds of millions of people have crossed over from the entire Earth. A high attrition rate also means that there are many people with opportunities. The World Channel rankings only use resources and land area as a basis for statistics and cannot be considered a person's true strength. Even here, you might see a foreigner with an S printed on his chest, wearing his underwear on the outside. He wouldn't find it strange. Fang Hao didn't continue the conversation, but instead asked, "What are all these people doing here?" "Kindness." Vadi paused for a moment, then laughed and said, "Dude, don't joke around. Didn't you come here to evaluate the items?" Fang Hao had no idea that they were just there to go shopping. No, that's not true." Seeing that he genuinely didn't know, Vadi then asked, "Do you know about the spring auction?" "No, that's where you register your auction items. If you have something to auction, go there to register it. An appraiser will set a price for you, and once it's approved, it will be auctioned on the day of the auction." Vadi pointed ahead. At the spring auction, the Goblin Moru only told him the time. Not much information was given, so it seems this auction is open to the public. There aren't many restrictions. "Oh, I understand." Fang Hao stroked his chin, pondering if he had any items that could be appraised, and he could also make a profit from the auction. The world is so big, our products are bound to sell well. Before Fang Hao could ask any further questions, Vadi pointed to the side and said, "Look over there." Fang Hao looked over and saw several short, sturdy dwarves with gray hair and beards. "I came with Gray Dwarf. After the items are appraised, he will take me to the auction," Vadi said with a hint of pride. Fang Hao nodded. It was that kind of vassal relationship again. In fact, when the transmigrators arrived, their foundations were too weak, and most of them needed to become vassals of some powerful nearby forces in order to survive. It's fine as long as you don't maliciously harm other transmigrators. Moreover, those who are subservient often live a safer life. Like Vadi, who is clearly getting along well with the dwarves. She's wearing a formal suit and a gold ring, and she even brought him here. That's great. I'm envious. Hey, you don't need to be envious. Lizard men are good too, but be careful. I heard that these lizard men eat people. Don't let them eat you, Vadi said in a low voice, and secretly glanced at Dimitrika not far away. I'm paying attention. Fang Hao continued. What are those dwarves assessing? Vadi glanced at the dwarf and lowered her voice, saying, "The things the dwarfs sell are incredible." "What?" Orange's weapon is called the windpipe cannon. It fires 5 barrels simultaneously. For formations like the tortoise-shell formation or the cavalry formation, a single volley will turn the ground into a pile of minced meat. Vadi's tone was somewhat grave. Can this kind of thing even be sold? Dwarven equipment is quite famous, and I've heard it sells very well, but the Dwarven Alliance has a rule that it cannot sell too much to outsiders. Oh, I understand. Fang Hao also obtained some useful information from Vadi. Accompanying him was Grey Dwarf, a dwarf. This dwarf race belongs to a smaller branch of the dwarf population. He is ruthless and skilled in combat. The gray hair and beard do not indicate old age, but rather are the natural color of the hair, which is also the origin of the name. The two chatted for a while longer. Vadi returned to the queue after being swayed by the dwarf's loud voice. Is that your friend? Grey Dwarf asked. It was also a transmigrator's, and we just happened to run into it. Transmigrators? To be able to get here, his strength must be quite impressive. Can you pinpoint the location of his territory? Grey Dwarf said in a deep voice. Vedi shook his head. His territory isn't near the dwarf city, and he came with the lizard man, so he might not be that strong. Grey Dwarf sighed with some regret. If this guy earned his outpost number 01 spot on his own merits, then his territory must be very strong. The dwarves are currently facing a shortage of supplies and slaves. Looting a resource-rich transmigrators could alleviate many of the problems. Grey Dwarf stared greedily at Fang Hao for a long time. When Dimitrika's cold, vertical pupils looked over, Grey Dwarf's body trembled violently, a chilling sensation, as if he were being watched by a venomous snake, spreading from his spine throughout his entire body. Orange Hero. These transmigrators are affiliated with a powerful lizardman force and should not be provoked. The lizardmans are not a large clan, but they have a much longer history. Legend has it that the lizardman lived on this continent before humans and dwarves, and those forbidden zones that no one has ever set foot in are filled with the dilapidated temples and altars once built by the lizardman. Lizardman rarely appears in the sight of other races, yet no one deliberately provokes them. Lord, those Grey Dwarf's gazes are rather hostile. Dimitrika said softly. Well, let's ignore them. They're just some small clans. Let's join the queue and participate in this auction. Fang Hao then led a few people to join the queue. A group of people eating and drinking together makes it anything but boring. The team is progressing very quickly. Vedi followed Grey Dwarf away, waving to Fang Hao. Soon after, Fang Hao and his group arrived. Behind the small window was a goblin wearing a single gold-rimmed lens. He was looking down at the register in his hand. Register what? The goblin's shrill voice rang out. The dwarves' instruments, Fang Hao replied. The goblin looked up and saw that humans had come to sell goblin equipment. The goblin said, Sure, what's the name of the equipment? How new is it? We have appraisers. Equipment with major defects or that doesn't sell well might be phased out. It seems the goblin thought he had obtained the dwarven equipment from somewhere and was here to sell it. Furthermore, dwarves from other regions also sell equipment. If you have used it before, you are obviously at a disadvantage. 5-tube organic cannon, brand new. 5-tube organic cannon. The goblin raised his javelin and looked at the young man above him again. Those Grey Dwarfs just registered organ cannon, and now another human is registering organ cannon. Are you sure it's 5 tubes of organic cannon, brand new? The goblin asked again, confirming. Yes, it's brand new. Fang Hao nodded. The goblin scribbled a few lines on a piece of paper and handed him a form. Go in this way, and an appraiser will greet you. The goblin pointed in a direction for Fang Hao. The 5-tube organ cannon is the most outstanding weapon among the dwarves. There are many powerful types of cannons around the world, but the technology of using a 5-barreled organ cannon, which can fire all 5 barrels simultaneously and is extremely powerful, is truly only in the hands of dwarves. Therefore, each 5-tube organic cannon is not cheap in the market. Furthermore, the dwarves strictly controlled the quantity they sold to outsiders. Even at headquarters auctions, not many items are sold to the public. Thank you. Fang Hao accepted the gift and led the group toward an entrance on one side. Walk through a long stone corridor. A human host was standing in front of them. After looking at the note in Fang Hao's hand, he wrote, 012 Appraisal Room. The room was not hard to find. After a light knock on door number 012, a slightly hoarse voice came from inside. Come in. They pushed open the door and went inside. This is a room that is approximately 70 square meters. The room was empty, with the central area empty and a long table at the back, along with several cabinets filled with various items. Behind the long table sat a skeleton undead. The spirit was wearing a beige robe, with symbols representing death and asceticism embroidered in gold thread on the collar, belt, and cuffs. Skeleton Technician, Level 7. Fang Hao immediately identified his profession. Technician? In Fang Hao's understanding, a technician is someone who is skilled in assembling and repairing constructs. It should have some similarities to medical equipment. It seems the appraiser assigned the item based on your possessions. It wasn't assigned arbitrarily. What do the guests want to evaluate? Skeleton Technician asked. 5-tube organic cannon. Didn't you bring it? I need to see the finished product before I can make an evaluation. The Skeleton Technician continued. I brought it. Please wait a moment. Fang Hao opened the Lord's book and contacted Dong Jieyue, asking her to trade him a 5-tube organ cannon directly. Bang! A dull thud. The heavy organ cannon appeared out of thin air smashing the stone slabs on the ground and kicking up a cloud of dust. Skeleton technician Soulfire trembled slightly, but his lack of emotion prevented him from exhibiting any unusual behavior. He simply stood up and took some tools from the cabinet behind him. They went to the organ cannon to conduct an inspection. It's clear that the skeleton technician conducted a very thorough inspection, and this lasted for a certain period of time. If it weren't for the fear of disassembling and reassembling the equipment, they probably would have disassembled and inspected everything on site. About half an hour later, the skeleton technician then stood up and calmly walked back to his desk. He said, "The equipment is fine. It's definitely the dwarven 5-tube organ cannon. How many are you planning to sell?" Fang Hao didn't answer immediately, but asked, "May I ask how many doors the dwarves will sell?" "I'm not sure about that, but the total number sold in the last 2 years was around 50, skeleton technician replied. "Okay, then we'll sell 100 of them. All of the same quality," Fang Hao said. Upon hearing this, the skeleton technician looked up. The soul fire throbbed violently, indicating shock. "They sell more than the dwarves. Are you sure? The quality is the same for all of them?" Skeleton technician asked rhetorically. "Sure." The skeleton technician nodded. "Okay, you can set a reserve price and a final price. That is, the reserve price and the fixed price in the auction. How many dwarves are typically set?" "The starting price is 5 million warfire coins per door, and the final price is 8 million. "Okay, I'll be the same as them." Swish, swish, swish. The skeleton technician asked for Fang Hao's invitation card and started writing down a lot of information on a piece of paper next to him. After finishing writing, he continued, "All right, send over 100 windpipe cannons within a week." "Clear." After answering, Fang Hao put the windpipe cannon away again. He led the group out of the room. Step out of the assessment area. The group continued to wander around outpost number 01, had dinner, and then returned to their territory via the teleportation array. Upon returning to their territory, Jia, Air, and the others departed. Fang Hao went straight to the skeleton transformation field. The biggest gain this time was the skeletons of several kinds of animals that we bought. Although the rank is not high, it makes up for the shortcomings of troop type. The bone is thrown into the transformation field for transformation. After processing the purchased bones, Fang Hao then noticed the black bone spear placed in the storage space. This was originally bought for Dong Jiayue. For a moment, I forgot about it. Open Lord's book, find Dong Jiayue, and send a message. "Jiayue, here's your purple bone spear. Please accept it later." Soon, a message came from the other side. "Okay, Hao Ji, sending you love." Fang Hao designated the black bone spear for the trade and sent it directly. Dong Jiayue is currently using the purple Thunderblade War Halberd, which actually has pretty good stats. However, there are still some differences between halberds and spears, and the black bone spear carries the attribute of corruption, which causes additional damage to living beings. After the transaction was confirmed, Fang Hao continued on to Skeleton Merchant, instructing Du Jin to deliver 100 cannons to the Merchant Alliance when he had time. Outpost number 01. Handle the auction matters properly. After I finish everything. As dusk settled, after dinner, Fang Hao went to hot springs again. Soaking in the warm hot spring, Air massaged his shoulders beside him. "Master," Air called softly. Fang Hao opened his eyes. The warmth of the hot spring gave Air's skin a subtle pink hue, and his 2 large ears stood up, creating a unique impression. "Master, several maids are turning 19, Air said softly. Fang Hao nodded. "Oh, Master, at this age, people in our tribe are already getting married," Air said again. Bite. Suddenly, a notification sound came from Lord's book. Fang Hao rolled over, rested his head on Air's lap, and opened the Lord's book. The person who sent the private message is Tian Jiong. Tian Jiong is not a person from Fang Hao's territory, but a transmigrator with whom he had made several transactions before. The 4-legged giant lizard was bought from him. Since Fang Hao's reputation has grown, Lord's book has enabled the friend verification function. Since the two had traded before, they were assumed to be friends. "Master Fang Hao, I'd like to ask you for a favor." The other party was very polite, so Fang Hao didn't say much. "Tell me about it." Do you have any warfire coins? I'd like to exchange some with you," Tian Jiong said. Fang Hao was taken aback. They wanted him to exchange currency? This is the first time I've encountered something like this. He doesn't lack warfire coins, but he doesn't know how to exchange them. "I have enough warfire coins and can help you with that. But have you thought about how you want to exchange them?" "The Lord's book doesn't offer currency exchange services," Fang Hao said. The other side also fell silent. After a while, Tianjiong said, "Boss, do you have any ideas? When we exchange them, I'll give you an extra 100 beast head gold for every 1,000 warfire coins you exchange." The normal ratio of beast head gold to warfire coin is 5 to 1, with an extra 100 beast head gold coins given. Consider this a reward for Fang Hao's hard work. Of course, Fang Hao didn't care about such a small amount of money. That's too little. It's not even enough to buy a skeleton at outpost number 01. But we should still offer our help. Tell me what you need the warfire coins for, and how many you need. Fang Hao continued to ask. Tianjiong didn't hide anything and said directly, "I've made contact with the lizard man. After some preliminary quests, I got a chance to switch factions and join the lizard man faction. This is very important for the environment and current situation of my territory, so I plan to sell everything I can to buy this opportunity." Fang Hao was somewhat surprised to see Tianjiong's reply. He himself was part of the Undead faction and had guessed that the camp could change. But Tianjiong was the first person to encounter someone who later switched sides. It's even possible to add Lizardman. If Tianjiong's territory is the same as Lizardman's territory, joining the opposing faction can indeed increase one's safety. This is indeed a good opportunity. Yes, boss, is there any way? I really can't gather that many warfire coins. That's why I'm bothering you. Tianjiong said anxiously. How many warfire coins do you need? 2,000. But I want to exchange for 3,000, keeping 1,000 as a reserve, Tianjiong said. Beside her, Xiaobai walked in wearing loose pajamas, her fair thighs exposed. He was holding 2 glasses of fruit wine. Fang Hao's eyes lit up. You have Merchant Alliance? Buildings? Have. Then you should be able to travel to Merchant Alliance. Outpost number 032, right? Fang Hao continued to ask. Okay. Oh, you mean, boss, we'll go to the base to exchange? That's great. Tianjiong immediately understood. Fang Hao said, here's what we'll do. Tomorrow at noon, take the money to the newly renovated shop across from tavern and find a fox girl named Xiaobai. She will exchange the corresponding amount of warfire coins with you. That's great. Thank you so much, boss. I'm so grateful. It's nothing. If you have any orders in the future, please feel free to ask. Kindness. Hang up the chat. Fang Hao was a little sleepy and planned to go back to his room to rest. The 2 women remained in the backyard, chatting about the interesting things they had seen that day. Back in my room, I lay down on the bed. Lower the lampshade to cover the nightstone's light. Lying in bed, Fang Hao began to think about the future development of his territory. This includes increasing food production, defending borders, stabilizing the population in various regions, and gathering faith. It seems that as the Lord, he still has many things to consider. As I pondered these thoughts, sleepiness crept in without me even realizing it. Just as Fang Hao was half asleep, the door was opened. Squeak. The door was gently pushed open and then quickly closed. Fang Hao vaguely heard the door open, but didn't pay much attention. No enemies are allowed to enter the territory. The only ones who can enter this room are Air, Xiaobai, and a few others. I bet someone was thinking about themselves after finishing their chat. Soon, the sound of clothes being taken off could be heard. Then, she crawled into bed, and Fang Hao instinctively pulled her into his arms. 2 large ears slammed into his forehead. Her body was smooth and tender. It's Air. Air gave a soft hum and began to kiss Fang Hao. You're being so proactive today. Fang Hao sensed something was off. Although the other party was trying very hard, they were somewhat clumsy. A murmur came from the woman's mouth. Holy crap. No, not Air. Fang Hao was startled. Who are you? He sprang out of bed with a jolt, and with a flick of his wrist, an orange-red fire arrow appeared out of thin air. Light up the room. Hongwa knelt by the bed, nervously covering herself with the blanket. He glanced at Fang Hao cautiously, then kowtowed and said, Master, it's Hongwa's fault. Fang Hao looked at Rabbit Girl, who was pulling at the blankets, and with a trembling expression and a low sob, he didn't know what to say. The magic that had been gathered dissipated, and the nightstone chandelier was lowered. Hongwa is a bunny girl among the maids who studies herbalism and has always been very well-behaved and obedient. Hongwa, you scared me. Before Hongwa could speak, the door was pushed open, and Air and Xiaobai rushed in. Seeing the 2 people facing off, and Hongwa, who was trembling with tension, Air said, Xiaobai, take Hongwa and wait at the door for a while. Okay, Sister Air. Xiaobai helped Hongwa walk towards the door. Hongwa also glanced cautiously at Fang Hao. When only Air and Fang Hao remained in the room, Air then took the initiative to say, Master, I was the one who let Hongwa in. Huh? What's going on? Good heavens. There are even people sending their tribesmen to their men. Air explained. Master, I just told you about it in the hot spring pool. What did you say? Manhwa is 19 years old. In our tribe, they have already started taking care of children. Are you planning to send them away? Air asked. Fang Hao frowned as he recalled that Air had mentioned several maids at the hot spring pool who were 18 or 19 years old. So, you arranged for Manhwa to sneak in? Air hurriedly said. Air thought that Master had given his consent, so he let Manhwa come in first today. In fact, maids all like Master very much, and they don't want to leave here anymore. Maid's loyalty is mostly at 100 points. Furthermore, the underlying meaning lies in the identities of Master and Maid. Fang Hao has yet to take action against them. Instead, maids began to worry secretly, fearing that Fang Hao would send them all away in the future. Fang Hao was stunned. Is Air blaming himself for not touching the other maids? This world cannot be understood using modern thinking. Is Manhwa willing? Fang Hao asked. Of course we're willing. Every maid is willing, Air said gently. Master, are you willing to accept Manhwa? I'd like to. Fang Hao smiled. Then I'll let Manhwa in. She's timid, so please don't frighten her, Master. After saying that, he said to the door, Manhwa, come in. The door opened again, and Manhwa was wrapped in a thin blanket, her fair shoulders exposed. He walked in with his head down. Air said, Manhwa, Master was just not ready. Go and serve Master. After saying that, Air took Little White and left the room. Master, Manhwa lowered his head. Fang Hao smiled slightly and spread his arms. Come here. Air left the room, and the nightstone chandelier was covered again. The next morning, after breakfast, the whole of Lord's Manor felt different. Outside the door, Maid's eyes shone as she looked at Fang Hao, filled with anticipation and adoration. Fang Hao rubbed Rabbit Girl's head, which was perched on the door frame. They walked straight out of Lord's Manor and headed towards Skeleton Transformation Field. After a night of transformation, the 3 skeletons should have already been transformed. Sure enough, it was outside the Skeleton Transformation Field. 3 skeletons stood there. The skeleton of a vulture, the skeleton of a scorpion nearly the size of an adult horse, and the skeleton of a human who looks rather ordinary. Fang Hao walked over and took a look. Skeleton vulture, 5th order. Faction, Undead. Racial traits, flight, Undead. Hollow skeleton, light weakness. Skill, pecking, pouncing, infecting. Inherent abilities, advanced flight mastery, intermediate predation mastery. Note, skeleton soldiers transformed from corpses retain their original characteristics and attack patterns. The desert vulture is quite large. Its body is mostly skeleton, and its wings are covered with a layer of fleshy membrane. It can guarantee its flight. Its claws and beak are extremely sharp and are its primary means of attack. At the time, the skeleton clerk explained that the desert vulture was a 6th order troop type. After the conversion, it was automatically downgraded by 1 order, becoming a 5th order troop type. The skeleton teller probably didn't realize at the time that Fang Hao was also an undead faction, so he reported his rank from his previous life. Fang Hao bought these vultures to fill the gap in aerial units. Flight units currently include Skeleton Giant Bat, Tier 3, Skeleton Pseudo-Dragon Guard, Tier 6, and Bone Dragon, Tier 10. However, both the Pseudo-Dragon and Bone Dragon require dragon crystals to recruit, so only the Skeleton Giant Bat can demonstrate its hundredfold amplification in large numbers. However, the 3rd rank has been used until now, which is a bit too low, so when I see vulture bones for sale, I just buy them and convert them. After examining the vulture, Fang Hao went to the giant hook scorpion. A scorpion that is nearly the size and length of a horse is quite frightening, especially with its tail hook hanging above its body. Undead Giant Hook Scorpion, Tier 7. Faction, Undead. Racial traits, Undead, Hollow Skeleton, Light Weakness. Skill, Claw Attack, Tail Sting, Scorpion Venom, Hide in Place. Inherent abilities, Advanced Crawling Mastery, Advanced Hunting Mastery. Note, skeleton soldiers transformed from corpses retain their original characteristics and attack patterns. The giant hook scorpion is not an ordinary skeleton, but is very similar to the undead centipede that was transformed earlier. It looks more like an arthropod without flesh and blood, with a shriveled, hard animal exoskeleton. Its entire body is jet black and reflective, which does resemble the shape of a living scorpion. Demonstrate how to hide in place, Fang Hao ordered. The undead giant hook scorpion, moving its several scorpion legs, quickly walked to the open space to the side. Then he lay face down on the ground and began to shake violently. The land on the ground began to be pushed aside. The scorpion's body began to descend rapidly. Then the pliers smoothed out the soil on top of his forehead. Fang Hao watched from the side, stroking his chin. Well, how should I put it? It was indeed hidden, but the speed was slow, and the hiding place left obvious traces. Unless there are other people outside who can help them remove the surface soil. If it still needs to be handled by people, Fang Hao can just embed other troop types into it. Wouldn't that achieve the same effect? After all, the dead don't need to breathe, and being buried in the ground won't result in them suffocating or dying. This ability is not very useful. Come out, splash. The giant hooked scorpion crawled out again. Fill the hole. The scorpion is filling in the hole again. Continue viewing The Last Pilgrimage. Skeleton Pilgrimage, Tier 4. Racial traits. Undead, hollow skeleton, light weakness, hostile faith. Skill, faith, hammering. Inherent ability, intermediate blunt weapon mastery. Hostile faith. This unit is unstable and has a 30% chance of dying. Faith, active. Activates skill, increasing all attributes by 15%. Hammer strike, active. Increases damage by 10%. Note: skeleton soldiers transformed from corpses retain their original characteristics and attack patterns. Oh no, I've been scammed. According to the skeleton teller, faith can improve all attributes. This skill is pretty good. Increased all attributes mean a high survival rate on the battlefield, increasing the overall strength of swarm tactics. Pilgrimage, who was a troop type in the church during his lifetime, guessed it. But to his utter surprise, there was another attribute among the attributes. Hostile faith. 30% of the unstable factors lead to direct death. 1/3. Damn, that's ruthless. You've sold me several thousand Warfire coins for just one of these things. You're a black market dealer. Whether it's a 30% mortality rate during recruitment or a sudden loss of 30% of the troops on the battlefield, it's a serious loss that can even affect the course of the battle. It's fair to say that he spent all that money and doesn't plan to use it again. Go outside the city and await orders. Swish, swish, swish. 3 skeletons, 1 flying, 1 crawling, and 1 walking. They quickly disappeared from sight. Fang Hao returned to the skeleton transformation field to check the recruitment requirements for the 3 skeletons. Skeleton vulture, wriggling spine 5, traces of death 3. Skull pilgrimage, wriggling spine 4, soul crystal 1, traces of death 2. Undead giant hook scorpion, wriggling spine 7, traces of death 7, starlight silver 2. The skull pilgrimage belongs to the human faction, so it consumes soul crystals. However, neither skeleton vulture nor the undead giant hook scorpion have any faction-specific materials listed in their recruitment requirements. This should mean that they belong to the category of wild animals. However, since there were no faction-specific materials, they were compensated for in traces of death. The normal recruitment requirements for a Tier 5 troop type are wriggling spine 5, exclusive material 1, traces of death 2. Now, skeleton vulture's traces of death have increased to 3 units. The same applies to the undead giant hook scorpion. Its exclusive materials are added to the traces of death. This is not a loss at all. Go test your combat abilities. Fang Hao also headed out of the city, intending to check out the fighting prowess of skeleton vulture and the giant hook scorpion. As for pilgrimage, forget it, we don't need it. At the same time, it is located in the territory of transmigrators, far to the southwest. Tianjiong emerged from the teleportation array with 2 of his men. Looking at the 3 Warfire cards worth $1,000 in his hand, a satisfied smile appeared on his face. Lord, soldier stepped forward and bowed. Tianjiong nodded and immediately asked, "What about those lizard men?" Soldier replied in a low voice, "They're still outside the North City. Nothing's happening yet." Tianjiong nodded, waved his hand, and led the group quickly toward the north gate of the city. After walking past rows of buildings, we exited through the north gate. After walking a while longer, they saw ahead a lizard man camp. Lizard men, clad in armor and wielding weapons, are on routine patrol, while 4-legged giant lizards, laden with cargo, lie on the ground resting. Tianjiong licked his lips and smiled. He strode over and said, "I want to see the priest." "Wait a moment," Lizard Man said, and went into the tent next to him. Not long after, Lizard Man's soldier then came out again. "Human, the priest invites you in." Tianjiong nodded, took the weapon from his waist, and put it aside, then bent down and entered the central tent. Inside the tent sat a lizard man dressed in a long robe. The robe was embroidered with green and golden patterns, which, combined with the lizardman's own blue scales, made it look exceptionally gorgeous. Ancient Priest, Tic-Tac-Ta, Purple Tier 3 Hero, Lizardman's Hero Unit. It was this same ancient priest who, when passing through this area, arranged for a lizardman to come and negotiate. This prevented a similar incident from happening again. Priest Tic-Tac-Ta, Tianjiong, sat down cross-legged to the side. Tic-Tac-Ta opened his eyes like an old monk, revealing brown vertical pupils. Mr. Tianjiong, transmigrators can recognize the language of any race. But at this moment, Tic-Tac-Ta was speaking the common language of the Human Federation. Moreover, he spoke it very fluently and accurately. Tianjiong said directly, Priest Tic-Tac-Ta, after a night of consideration, I have decided to join the Holy Dynasty and become a member of it. Lizardman is the name used by outsiders. They claim to be the sons of ancient saints, that is, descendants of God. Even though Lizardman has gradually faded from the mainstream, the term Holy Dynasty still shows respect for Lizardman. Mr. Tianjiong, you should think this through. Although joining won't affect you personally, you will no longer be a member of humanity and will be subject to our management. Tic-Tac-Ta continued. Tianjiong nodded. Yes, I've already made my choice. He had already made up his mind yesterday, but he just didn't collect enough Warfire coins as required. Okay, this is yours. A scroll was pushed in front of Tianjiong.